Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, boom, saddle up, boys. It's Across Your Bow podcast, episode number 32, with my guest today, returning for the fourth time? Third time?
I think
Fourth
it's the
time?
third time.
My man, Senpai, Virtual Senpai, man. You guys can hit him up over on this Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Virtual Senpai with 2 eyes. And you guys can hit him up over on the Twitter at Virtual Senpai. All right. Big news. Let's go into the news first. Let's do this real quick. All these testing ships, man. All these testing ships. Colbert, the Smolensk, the Ohio. God, there's so many of them. The Udachi. Siegfried, yeah. And the Hayate. And I'm gonna go on record right now and tell you this, that the Hayate is gonna be something that you guys want to get. This thing is dirty. Ooh. It is dirty nasty.
110%. Like, honestly, for the first test iteration, it's incredibly balanced in my opinion. Like, incredibly balanced.
I know a lot of people are sitting there saying that they should give it a detection buff because it sits at 6.1 right now.
I mean, if you make it 6.0,
I mean, does it really make a difference? No, because everything else is about that same too, as well, except for, say, the Shimakaze. I think the Daring's at 5.9, right? And the super mod or the legendary mod Gearing's at 5.6. So I mean, it fits right in there, and Business 6 has gone on record as saying that this is what the Harry Gumbo should have been when it came out instead of this HE spamming nonsense. And I kind of see it. You only get 10 torps, and they go 12, and that's the only option for you, which I find fine. But the reloads are like 4 seconds, and the gun traverse is ridiculously good.
Like, in all seriousness, speaking about the guns there, we have to remember that these are Japanese 127s, which have an insane alpha. For example, I was playing ranked today. I played TRB Yugumo, Gunboat Yugumo with BFT. I took on a full health C46 and won. Remember, these guns can hit for 4K, potentially 4K a hit, if you hit all of your guns. So with its detection where it is, I think it's actually perfectly balanced and it's ready for release.
I agree. A lot of people are like, oh, let's give it this, let's give it that. And I say, this thing's fine the way it is. Let's go ahead and drop it now because I want to get my hands on this thing. Now, how are they going to release that? They haven't said. Could it be could it be a coal ship? I don't know. Could it be a steel ship? I doubt it. But or is this new recruitment, or not in the recruitment, but the Naval Training Center?
NTC.
What's it called
I think
now?
NTC?
Research Bureau.
Yeah.
Research Bureau. I don't know. I don't really care. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me how they release it. I want them to release this thing quickly because I want to get in and play some of these things.
Definitely. Like, I think it'll be an NTC ship because currently we only have 2 nations, and with the Japanese Navy being one of the longest and most filled out tech trees in the game currently, I think it would be advisable to put the Hayate as an NTC or a research bureau ship because there's so many lines to grind. Like, why not?
Well, either way, Hayate, if and when it comes out, you guys pick this thing up. However, do whatever you got to do. Sell your firstborn, whatever, to get this thing. This thing's going to be dirty, and you guys are going to really like this. Moving on to the next one, the one that I find pretty useless is the Udachi. It's 15-kilometer torpedoes that go 57 knots, but they're spotted from the moon, and you get a torpedo reloader and smoke, so you kind of get that old-school Shiriatsuyu feel. If you guys remember the old school Shiri feel, but they said that one was too strong. Honestly, I would like them to speed these torps up to about 62 knots and then drop it to about 12 kilometers on the torpedoes. But other than those torpedoes, this thing's pretty useless. I mean, your guns.
I do agree.
Yeah. Your guns turn super slow. You get the good damage. Don't get me wrong. I was doing 3,000 and 4,000 damage volleys bow on to other things, but at just that turn, if you have to make any adjustments or any turning, you're screwed because you're not going to be able to get guns done on range. So you end up taking way too much damage during a knife fight. But
I think honestly, the torpedoes are kind of okay. Maybe just increase it to 15.9 and keep them at 15, or keep the speed the same and reduce the torpedo detectability range to 1.5. That
What
would be
is it now?
balanced. It's 1.9, so almost 2 full kilometers.
That's a lot of, especially when you're playing at tier 7. There's a lot of lions out there from the French crews, and those things are maneuverable as hell. And they're gonna just, as soon as at 2 kilometers, they can have their shit full on turned
Mhm.
and dodging. I have done some pretty decent games in this thing, but it was just people just sailing broadside at tier 5 and just knocking the shit out of them with the torps. But in realistically, if we're looking at ranked or clan battles, if at tier 7, this thing's kind of crap, and I wouldn't take this at
Mm,
all, honestly.
in a ranked setting, I can see it being garbage, but in a clan wars setting, I do feel like it would be very powerful because remember, when we had tier 10, we had
Mhm.
the 20-kilometer shimmies,
Right.
and they essentially had the similar torpedoes to this thing. So I think if there was ever a tier 7 ranked season, it would be just like this.
Hmm. I find overall, is it ready for release? In my opinion, probably not. It still needs some work, but maybe speed up the gun turrets a little bit or something. I don't know, because with the torpedo reloader, you get 16 torpedoes, but
But they're garbage torpedoes.
yeah, and so it becomes an area of deniability boat like only, and when your torpedoes are down, you're kind of worthless. So I don't see the big bonus in this one, but that's Udachi guys. Pass on this one. I'm not too big of a fan of this one. What are your final thoughts on the Udachi before we move on?
Honestly, it's close. It's very close to what it should be. And if they reduce the detection on the torpedoes, I think it'll be ready for release.
Okay.
Like at least half a kilometer. Like go from 1.9 to 1.4, even 1.5, and it would be fine.
Okay, that's fair. All right, moving on from that into probably one of the most controversial things that I think that doesn't need to be in the game. It's the Colbert.
Ooh,
The Colbert, tier
ooh,
10 French
careful,
cruiser.
careful.
I mean, I like this thing, and it fits right up into my play style. I play the Atlanta all the time, the Flint all the time, and it's that same play style, hump an island if you can. But I think that they've gone off the rails here with all these HE spamming boats. And then the next boat we'll talk to about the Smolensk is right up there with this one. But I was sitting there reading some of the feedback from some of the other CCs, and like a majority of us, I think that this. I don't know about you, but a majority of us think that this boat doesn't need to be in the game. It's just too game breaking. Now, some of the
Mm,
pushback from the other side of it was, well, I mean, the thing only has 35,000 hit points, so you can literally one shot it with just about anything. And so the stats aren't really there saying that it's OP. And I'm like, dude, have you been shot by this thing? Just that never ending pissing stream of fucking HE shells coming down at 127s. I mean, struggles, man. This is a struggle one. I mean, I like
mhm.
it. Don't get me wrong. I like it, but is it good for the game? What do you think?
Well, there are two sides to the Colbert argument, one
Mm-hmm.
of which is, oh, it's brutally overpowered. And those are usually the battleship mains who sit bow in and get farmed to shit by a range
True.
mod AFT Colbert.
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, you deserve it. If
Pretty
you
much.
sit bow in to HE spammers you don't manage your R key properly, on top of that, by all means, you deserve to get made fun of and get an arsonist on you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you deserve it because if you position yourself like that in the potential killing field of a Colbert, which, mind you, fully respect out with range is 18 plus kilometers,
Mm-hmm.
but these shells are super floaty. So if
Mm-hmm.
this thing is shooting you at max range and you're getting burned down by this thing, it is your fucking fault, man.
I
Like,
agree.
it is your fault.
I
But
agree.
I digress. The other side of it,
Mm-hmm.
HE spam is way too prevalent, and we need to stop having this in the game. A way to balance the Colbert: lessen the range, lessen the reload, slightly increase the pen with IFHE. That
All right.
would make the captains have to get into more dangerous situations, but also have that incredible DPM with every single gun going.
Right.
But honestly, if you're a battleship player and you get rained on this thing and you're bow in, I'm sorry, I do not feel any sympathy for you. It is your fault. You got yourself into that situation, and it is your fault alone.
That is something to be said there. I was playing it the other day, and It was me and Timmy G, and I was in the Colbert, and he was in the Harry Gumbo, and we melted a 70,000 damage Montana who was full speed moving. But we just melted him in less than 2 minutes, man. It was insanity, and he was on all four fires, twice. He was on all four fires in that 2 minutes, and it was a pretty crazy thing, and I was pretty impressed with the boat, but then I turned around and got one shot by demonies. But that's another story for another time.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just this is the definition. These boats, the Smolensk and the Colbert, are the definition of what I like to call glass cannon. Really, really annoying main guns that don't do a whole lot of damage overall, but it's just the mental taxation that puts on the enemy when you're shooting at them. It's no fun to be spammed like
And
that
like,
by a Worcester or a Minotaur or anything.
and building on that, like if you look at if you take a look and you see that physically see that many shells flying in, it's going to be a scary thing. It's going to cause the player to panic. It's kind of not the point of the Colbert or like any realistic HE spammer is to like cause damage. You can do it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really psychological. It makes the player panic. It makes the average player panic and press that R key too soon.
It's extremely
And
demoralizing.
once that happens, it is demoralizing, and that's the point of the ships. Like, you're going to get upset playing against these things because they forced your hand. And honestly, it just takes a disciplined player. Like, I'm not saying that these things aren't bad for the game or good for the game, but in order to deal with an HE spammer, you need to be very disciplined.
All right, so there you go. There's the Colbert. Overall, I think the boat is fine where it's at. Release it or not?
Don't release it in its current form. Increase the reload, decrease the range, and change the HE so it pens a little more. But as someone said before, reduce the fire chance perhaps, because you have so many shells flying in. It's a little ridiculous. So just having a few minor changes, especially the range issue, I think that will bounce the boat further, because it'll force the player to get into a dangerous situation more often than not. Whereas right now, a Colbert player can sit behind an island at 18 kilometers and spam down a bow and Yamato.
Yeah, this is true. Let's talk about guys. If you have any questions or comments or anything like that that we're talking about today, go ahead and leave them in the chat at sirvenomik, and I will copy pasta them over, and we get to those toward the end of the game, or to the end of the game, the end of the show, because it's all a game, right? It's all a game. I used to read Word Up magazine. It's only a game. Why you have to be mad? You sound like Mario. You sound like Italian or something. Ooh,
Speaking of the Italians,
I have not played it. Did you go off and play some of these?
No, I've only taken a look at them on the PTS, and they look promising. They look promising. I don't have a lot of like firsthand play time on it, but honestly, they look promising. They look like they're going to be fun.
There's some downsides from what I've heard so far, is that these things are very good versus other cruisers. But they struggle with DDs and they struggle with battleships.
They're gonna be cruiser raiders, which are gonna be very interesting.
Yeah.
But once we get them on the live servers, I'm gonna be very excited to try these in like a live testing environment.
Are we talking? Have we deemed this the SAP button, man? You know, this is the Spanish button, Spanish shells. Because the semi-AP shells, they don't have any explosive damage, so they don't do area damage like the HE shells do. But but they don't have as much pen as the AP shells.
I mean, it's almost like you're having an entire line of like British battleship cruiser things.
It's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic that this thing is going to bring into these Italian cruisers. Now, obviously, I have not played them because I don't do public test servers at all. But it has been interesting, and I've been reading some of the feedback from some of the people, and they're seeing a lot of they're going to struggle versus destroyers because of the non explosive damage. And like the thing about HE is when you hit them, they explode and they do module damage. AP, you have to hit that module to get that damage. I'm wondering if it's the same concept here. You have to actually hit that module to get that damage.
It could be, but remember, AP shells technically explode once they penetrate armor. So we'll have to see. Like, So we'll have to see like in actual like live tests in order to see like what these shells can do, what they can't do, and then once the data is gathered, then like the devs such as Sir Nelson, bless him, amazing dude,
Yeah.
can take this data and bring it to the balancers and do all that. So hopefully, like I'm cautiously optimistic about this SAP because the first time we heard about it when we were designing that destroyer in St. Petersburg,
Yeah.
which by the way, NA won that design competition.
There you go.
Rock on. So it's going to be a very interesting concept.
I'm interested to see. I didn't. This is the tier 10 Italian destroyer you guys did, right?
The tier 10 Italian.
That'd be good. I don't know much about that. Unfortunately, I was not invited. I'm looking at you, Fem. Invite me next year, huh? That'd be great.
Dude, if you go next year, you're gonna have so much fun. You're gonna have to, but be aware, you're gonna have to deal with probably 3 of my CC sons, being Static, Oni, and Citizen.
Sons. Wow, that's great.
Yep.
I'm just Uncle Venom over here, man. And no, I'm not that Uncle Diddles. All right. But maybe for the right price, we'll talk. Either way, moving back into the rest of the testing ships, let's talk about the Siegfried. Siegfried, I've not been a big fan of this. There's one thing about this boat that I actually do, or a couple of things that I do like about this boat: the accuracy on those 15-inch guns, and then the maneuverability of this boat. It's pretty good. Other than that, I think the boat's just a failure. Like the biggest problem that I have with it is those 15-inch guns. They're German, so they have bullshit HE, anemic HE damage. Good damage on the AP, but you have to be completely broadside. Any kind of angle, you just bounce or you overpin or whatever it is. It's a mess. This boat is. And then instead of up in some kind of pin value or doing whatever else they did, what they do, they gave it secondaries, and I'm like, this is not a tanky ship. And now you're giving it a secondary pushing boat feel like the rest of the battleships, but it can't tank like the battleships can. So it can
tank to an extent. It can tank to an extent, but not really to the extent of a Tirpitz or a Bismarck, for example.
Yeah.
Now, talking about the Siegfried, it's a bit of an anomaly for me. So what I mean by anomaly is it's laser accurate. Like holy crap! Like if I scroll over this thing in my port right now, it has, and I quote wherever my German list is. Here it is. Max dispersion, completely specced out. This thing has like 163 meters max dispersion, and that is crazy for 15-inch guns.
That's like cruiser. That's cruiser tier.
It's cruiser dispersion, but yeah, this thing's accurate. But as my good friend BFK once said, it has half a gun.
Yeah.
You get no alpha strike on it. You've got your shells hit, but you're not doing damage because you literally only have 6 guns.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny to see. It's kind of funny to see these super cruisers go out there with the Alaska, with the 305s. You got the Yoshino with the 310s and 310s on the Azuma, I believe, and they feel they do more damage than the bigger guns, the 15-inch guns. And is it pin value or is it just the fact that these HE shells are garbage?
Well, German HE, while it does get quarter pin, it does suffer from a lower alpha. And that's kind of something I'll bring up later because I had a point about this because we talked about certain topics. But the AP is will and always will be much stronger than the HE. So technically speaking, you shouldn't be shooting HE out of the Siegfried unless you absolutely have to. The AP will outperform it 1,000,000 times to 1.
Well, it kind of reminds me of the Hipper, because the Hipper and the Prince Eugene there at tier 8, one's a premium, one's non-premium. It's
oh my god, I was going to bring those up later.
All right, well then we'll just wait on that. What I was going to say then, but either way, overall, is it ready to release? I don't think so. I think it's got some things to do. I don't like 15-inch guns in this game because they just have absolutely, they're just. You have to be very perfect with your shots, and if you're not perfect with your shots on the proper angle, you're not getting anything done. So, what can you do?
Yeah, I do agree. It's not ready right now. Honestly, it needs 3 things fixed.
Okay.
1, the reload needs to be increased because at 6 guns at this tier, you need DPM to keep up with
You mean
battleships if
decreased?
you want to. Yeah,
Yeah.
it needs to be the reload time needs to be decreased.
What is
That's
it?
what I mean.
26 seconds now.
Fully spec'd out 22.9 with the reload module.
Well, I think that they
Um,
should put that out there without the reload module. They
mhm.
bring it down to 22, 24 seconds, something like that. I think it'll help.
So with the reload module, it'll sit at about 20 seconds, which would be perfectly fine for me. The second thing is they need to bring back the 8-kilometer torpedoes.
Yes.
They need to give this thing some utility. The 6s are really bad and not good enough for the type of boat that it is.
It's not even
And
that.
third thing,
I think going on those torpedoes, the fucking arcs on them suck.
oh, there's one more thing. The third thing, the freaking camera. Fix it.
Oh my god, yes.
Fix
The
it.
camera
It is
on those
god
torpedoes, man. Holy shit. I know they
god
come
awful.
off the back of the boat, kind of like the Hindenburger does, but my God, it pulls you back under that third turret, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? I would like for them to fix it, but I don't know. We talk about the armor. I mean, it's got the turtle back on there, but you just get overmatched by everything. It doesn't matter. I've gone bow in versus straight up bow in, straight up off bow. You know how you tank with a Rune or you tank with a Hindenburger, and those boats do better at tanking than this one does. And it's just
Give it
a
a
fatter boat
slightly,
though, so I mean
yeah.
that's a thing.
Give it a slightly worse Moskva bow, and I'm okay with it. Then it can actually tank.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm all about the off bow tanks. I love the Nelson because of the off bow. I love the Dunkirk because you really can't bow on these boats. You have to kind of open up just a little bit to hit that auto bounce angle. Well, there doesn't seem to be an auto bounce angle on this thing. It just doesn't matter where you're at. It just does not tank.
Take in mind versus battleships, since you are a battle cruiser, you're facing a lot of 406 and 460s and 457s.
True.
So the auto bounce is probably going to be non-existent at some of those angles.
It's probably true, but still getting those from the 203s from the Demonis and still losing 10 to 15, 20,000 damage on a volley, it kind of sucks.
Think about it though. Remember, the Des Moines does have improved AP values, so it's going to have that kind of effect.
Okay, fair enough.
It's heavy. It's heavy AP, man. That's one of the American gimmicks. So it's gonna happen regardless of what boat you're in. Like if you're in a Yamato and you get up against a Des Moines, you're still gonna take massive AP damage if he shoots you in the bow.
Right.
Like it's gonna happen.
All right. So Siegfried, ready to come out or not? What do you think?
Not currently.
No, I don't. I agree with that.
Not
currently ready to go. As for the Smolensk, now let's talk about this one real quick, and then we'll move on into some other stuff. But Smolensk, another 16 139s. It's got the kebab guns, 4 turrets, 4x4 turrets, so 16 guns. IFHE approved, and this thing is dirty. It comes with a smoke. Honestly, I don't think it needs the smoke, but it's a little bit more. I think this one's a little bit more broken than the Colbert is because of that smoke. It doesn't have a heel.
I disagree. It does. I believe it does.
Does it have a heel? I think it would have a heel.
But in all things considered, I do not think the Smolensk is quite on the level of the Colbert in terms of volume of fire. Simply because its close-up gun angles are absolutely terrible. When I was testing it originally in its form that is soon to be released, I guess, I was 5 kilometers from a broadside Des Moines. I had AP loaded. Guess what I couldn't do? I couldn't Citadel him.
Yeah.
I couldn't touch him. The guns sit much too high, and honestly, it just feels like a Minotaur. With that, but like it just feels like a Minotaur with HE or just like Kutuzov on steroids. The range nerf I felt really helped bring this ship back in line because it was way too powerful.
What's the base range on it now? 14, 15 kilometers?
It's like 13 kilometers or something like that. So you have to take AFT in order to get that 15 plus.
Yeah, definitely AFT, IFHE. Overall, I honestly, dude, when I was playing this thing, dude, I had so much fun playing this boat. I love this boat. I think the Colbert and the Smolensk are great. Now, begs the question: is it okay for the game?
Currently, right now, it's a bit of a yes and a no because right now, right now DDs even with like all the carrier nerfs in a non-carrier game, DDs have a lot of influence power.
True.
And if you put a ship into the game that makes players think twice and have to force themselves to actually like play smarter around certain ships. For example, you always play smart around a Minotaur as a DD. You always play smart around it. You play smart around a Des Moines and a Wooster. It
Okay.
helps players think smarter with their DDs, and it helps them learn in the game, and that's exactly what we need. We need people learning, hey, don't push into that HE spamming corridor. Don't push into those battleships. Don't push into those destroyers. Don't push into that radar cruiser. It's a lot of don't, and what a lot of people see is do, and we need to change that.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's been interesting. We see that with a lot of the rank season, which we'll get into talking about here in just a minute. But I still feel that destroyers have the most impact on the game, or the most potential impact on the game. Not just because of their torps, because of their ability to be undetected, and undetectability is the biggest key for a fucking destroyer. And and you still see it. You still see it today at tier 10. People rolling their smoke into the cap, letting people know exactly where they are. It's always frustrating to see it. So I tend to agree. Now with the CV in the game, it kind of cuts out their ability to do that. But whatever, just dodge, right?
Just dodge forehead.
Yeah.
Uh,
So overall, Smolinsk. We're sitting here talking about the Smolinsk and the Colbert at playing against other tier 10s. What's it going to do to the tier 8s?
this is where we bring up the question of matchmaking.
Mm-hmm.
Should it be changed for tier 8s? At the same time, I think it should be. I think the chance of getting a tier 10 game should be lessened. So tier 8s should be able to like choose to sit in queue for a little longer to get maybe that tier 9, 8, 7 game. But honestly, like with all these ships coming in that are just spamming HE, and with IFHE can and will pen the decks of, for example, the Bismarck, the North Carolina,
Yeah.
etc., etc. We need to see a change in the tier 8 matchmaking. And I used to be a big advocate for, hey, just play better.
Yeah.
But with these ships coming in, like the level of skill or an awareness that you need in the game in order to play against these tier 10 cruisers as a tier 8 battleship is extremely high.
Yeah,
And the
it is.
average player will not be able to do that, and it will be extremely difficult to thrive in that situation.
All right. So speaking of the matchmaking, there is new matchmaking things coming in next patch. Do you hear about this? There's going to be a
I heard briefly about it.
percentage amount of time that you're going to be bottom tier, percentage amount of time that you're going to be mid tier, and percentage amount of time that you're going to be top tier. What do you think of this? I mean, it goes a long way to try to fix some of the issues, because everybody knows at the beginning of the game there wasn't a whole lot of people or players that had tier 10 boats, and because of that reason, they did matchmaking, pulling from the tier 10 pool of players first as a reward. Hey, you can get into games, so they didn't have to sit there and wait. Well, now 3 years, almost 4 years on now, that's not a viable strategy anymore, because so many people have tier 10 and so many people are still playing tier 8s. So it's still pulling off of that old matchmaking system. So being a percentages moving forward, here we go. Let's see how this actually comes to its fruition on a live server. It'll take a couple of months to start seeing the numbers coming back, but I think it's a good first step. I mean, obviously they don't want to go +1, -1 matchmaking on things. I still think they need to do that for CVs, but that's another story. Just to see some of these guys that are brand new in stock, tier 6 boats, stock New Mexico going up against tier 8s, and stock North Carolina is going up against tier 10s. They just struggle, and even stock Iowa struggle at tier 10. So I think it'll go a long way to alleviate some of the people's frustration with it. But in the end, is it going to actually solve any problems?
With the tier 8 to 10 ratio and situation there, I think it's a good thing for that. But in my opinion, I don't think we really need it for like the tier 8 to 6, because I mean that's just mid-tier matchmaking. I mean,
Sure.
tier 6s can still thrive against tier 8s,
Oh, yeah.
whereas tier 8s cannot thrive against tier 10s. Like the HP difference, for example, we'll take an Arizona. and compare it to the NC. The Arizona, like it has worse armor, but I do believe that it has like what 50,000 something HP. I'm not sure. I
Something
can't remember
along
off the
those
top of my head.
lines. And what's the
But
North Carolina is like
the
60,
North Carolina,
70?
66. It's 66,000
Right.
for the North Carolina. But for the where is it? For the Arizona, it sits at around 57,000, which isn't exactly a huge health differential. However, when you take a North Carolina at 66,000 and pit it up against a Kremlin or a Grosser Kerberos, that's a 40,000 health differential.
105,000, 108,000 respectively.
Exactly. It's huge. It's massive and it's uncalled for.
And I still
Like,
to this day laugh when I see a Kremlin at 111,000. I'm like, dude, you're using survivability expert. Come on, man. Come on, son.
what about the oven chicken? Oven chicken survivability expert Kremlin.
Yep. Jesus. Speaking of oven chicken, right now there's a package on that you can get both of the oven chicken captains. I recommend these. You can do these for destroyers or carriers, and they do really well. For Ovechkins, you guys can pick up 2 different captains.
Honestly, best captains in the game. Like the Commander Alexander Ovechkin package, the one where he's in all his hockey gear. You can transfer that between American and Russian ships, which is amazing because I essentially use the same captain for Grozavoy and Gearing, and it saves me a lot of time. It gets me the extra HP on boats that need it, aka destroyers. So it really works. I was actually fortunate enough to get the American only Ovechkin, and I stuck him on my midway.
I have that guy as well. I didn't get the other 2. But I might go back and buy these 2 just to have them. But yeah, the oven chicken has come in handy, man. Playing through the Lexington, and I finally got my midway this week. So it's taken a while because I haven't been playing CVs too much, and I'm not very good at them. So it's been a struggle. But played him a couple of times on the midway. Not a bad thing. Broke 100K like my 3rd game in it. Just trying to figure out, and I've been working on the slingshot method. I'm just trying to figure out the ranges on those to get in there. But yeah, I mean dropping in on Worcesters and Demonies with that slingshot. It's been upped my game quite a bit actually.
I mean the slingshot. It's like I can see why Wargaming said, "Oh, we're not going to fix it because it takes a higher IQ, quote unquote." They didn't actually say that.
Yeah.
It takes a higher skill level to complete it. But the thing is, though, now that we're seeing CBs practice this, it might warrant the attention of actually changing it.
I hope they do change it because I've been a big proponent of it doesn't really make a difference, but actually trying to work on it just to prove it wrong. I see where the huge benefits are, and getting in on people closer to mitigate some of that AA damage, or you don't get any AA damage at all, and then being able to immediately go into another drop and position yourself accordingly. I think it's actually really fantastic, a fantastic skill for some people to have, and I have a little bit more respect for it than I did when I first heard about it. All right, I guess that's all the testing ships. I mean, and at least all the ones that I really want to talk about. Those are the big ones that are coming out. Other than the Ohio, just the Ohio. I don't care what the stats say; it doesn't perform like a Montana does.
I mean,
like
there's problems with it.
I had this big argument with a couple of people in the feedback channel the other day about the Ohio, and they said, look, and they put up the picture of the Montana, and they put up a picture of the artillery stats of the Montana and the Ohio, and I said, I don't give a shit what those stats say. It does not perform the same. It just doesn't. I don't care what it says. What it says and what it actually does are 2 different stories. And they were like, wow, you just don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. And I'm sorry, I just have a problem with 8 guns versus 12 guns. I think that's the biggest deal. Plus, I have a really big soft spot in my heart for the Montana because for the longest time, I still think the Montana is the best battleship at Tier 10. It's got the most utility.
It is, yes.
Yeah, and
it also has, I believe, it still has the highest potential alpha strike in the game.
Yeah, 12 guns, that'll do it. But
12 guns at its Citadel max. Let me just do the math here real quick.
Sure. But anyway, I mean, some things that the Ohio can do that the Montana can't. I agree with the Montana under 10 kilometers isn't as good as the Ohio. It's okay. It does fine under 10 kilometers, but the Ohio is just better because there's that extra,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the extra secondaries and the, you know, the potential big gun damage. But over 15 kilometers, the Montana just outdoes the Ohio at every turn.
Oh yeah,
And
and I did do the math. Montana has a potential alpha strike of a full 12 citadels
Mhm,
at 163,000,
mhm,
whereas the Ohio at 8 guns
uh-huh,
with citadel damage sitting at around 16, just under 16,000 damage,
mhm,
126,000.
right.
So it's no surprise that the Montana, like on paper, will potentially like it, or as you've seen or as you have experienced, it outperforms the Ohio,
Right.
and I honestly feel the same way.
Well, and I'm not, and then, you know, after that conversation, I sat there and I'm like, wait a second, wait a second, wait a second. Why the hell am I trying to compare the Montana with the Ohio? Now, I know they're pretty close boats, but they're completely different play styles. The Montana does very good at its own play style, and the Ohio does very good at its own play style. On that note, am I advocating for the Ohio? No, I think secondary boats are terrible and they have no business being in the game because most of the games aren't played secondary range, especially when you get on something like Okinawa. You're really not going to get a push on unless you go up to A or something and take yourself out of the rest of the map. But they just struggle because the majority of the games are played at 15 to 18 kilometers and they're not played up close. Now on
Mhm.
smaller maps like North or something where you can actually get in close and then come around a corner on somebody, then yes, the Ohio is fantastic, and secondary boats in general are fantastic on those type things. Just in my experience, that these boats, Atlantic sucks for this boat. Tears of the Desert, you can make it work. Ocean is a piece of shit, you know, for Ohio's and secondaries and Massachusetts's and Georgia's. All these things, all these big open maps with not a whole lot of island cover, just really suck for these boats.
Mhm. And then another thing I have is the 457s don't feel like true 457s. I'm getting bounces at weird angles. I'm
That
getting shatters
that's some
on cruisers, which is just it's so alien to me. Like having a big gun like that and shooting at like something that you should penetrate, and you see like either the torpedo bulge penetration or a shatter, and it kind of scares me. Like I think the Krupp values of the Ohio may need to be reworked. Not to like the point where it's a be all end all one shot
right.
machine, but to the point where like you should be like destroying cruisers with 457s.
Some of the bros in the chat here at twitch.tv/sirvenomik have when I am playing through these testing phases and I'm shooting at the bows, I'm shooting at the sides, and I'm just shooting every chance I can get just to see the ranges of RNG that I'm going to be expecting when this thing actually comes out. And a lot of them have noticed, I'm like, man, you're really bouncing a lot of shells on easy shots and a lot of overpins from 10 to 12 kilometers. And I'm saying, well, I'm shooting at a battleship, but then on the other hand, there's that 40,000 damage shot that I get on the fucking Kurfürst from 4 kilometers because I knocked the shit out of the guy. And then the very next shot, I miss all but 2 shells because of the two gun chassis. I struggle with 2 gun turret boats, man. They're just so much margin for error as opposed to a 3 gun turret. But either way, I'm not saying that the Ohio isn't a strong boat. I'm just saying it's not my cup of tea, is what I'm saying. So you guys that like the secondary boats, if you guys like the Massachusetts or you like the Georgia or whatever, this boat is just a beefed up version of those, and with some pretty powerful fucking guns that can do a lot of
Mhm.
damage.
There's also one thing that I'm kind of concerned about. Like as you go up the tiers, secondary builds actually lose their value. And unlike the I believe the Curvers, this thing actually has a pretty soft bow. So
Mm-hmm.
like if we look at the if we look, it has a 32 mil plating bow, which I
Mm-hmm.
mean I guess that's kind
It's
of
okay.
standard. But we go to the Curvers, and I think it's a little more, or is it? No, yeah, it's a 60 mil belt,
Yeah.
and its fore end armor belt is 120. The only parts where it's 32 is like the very extremities of the actual Kerfer's belt.
Well, see, that's the thing, man. The American battleships are very good bow on or open face, getting under that second turret. But if you go broadside in any of them, you're just fucked. And that's something that
Oh no, I'm talking about going bow in.
no, I understand that. that's something that caused a lot of issues early in the game with the Iowa Citadel being raised and the Montana Citadel being a higher citadel. A lot of the
Mhm.
people were frustrated because you get open up just enough, and you're not even flat bow on. You would just get pinned to death.
You get punched in the head. Yeah.
So when they lowered it, it made the boats even stronger. In Iowa back then and the Montana back then were no slouches. It just you just had to play it.
Mhm.
You had to play it smart, which caused a lot of people to be frustrated because they can't just willy nilly just go off on and play the fucking game.
Mhm.
They had to actually think about it, and a lot of people didn't like thinking about it. So they went to the easier boats, like the GK is a pretty easy boat to play. You don't have to be very smart to play that boat, and you can make these mistakes and not get punished for them, or at least not as punished as hard.
Mhm.
So that's something to take into consideration when you're talking about the Ohio. Is it's not quite tanky, just like the Georgia. It's not really all that tanky. I mean, if you bow in on them, maybe, but you show any kind of broadside or any kind of angle, you're gonna get smashed.
Mhm. So yeah, like honestly, like for its armor values, it's just not. It just doesn't fit me as a secondary ship. Like
Yeah,
the Carburst is it's the poster child of the secondary build at tier 10.
right.
And the only reason it's so good is because it has A, the turtleback, B, it has that improved bow,
Mm-hmm.
which can A, bounce a lot of things,
Yes, it can.
B, shatter a ton of IFHE.
Mm-hmm.
And what
Well,
really frustrates me is
that's
the
the
Ohio doesn't have that.
mm-hmm.
It's literally a 32 mil bow, and it'll get crushed by anything and everything.
Pretty much. Overall, do you think it's ready to come out now?
No. It's
What
close. I will say it's close, but it's not 100%.
I think if they put it out now, it'll do fine. But I think they need to fix something on the shell pins because there's a lot of things that you would think that you would get shell pins on, but you're just bounces, and it's really
Mhm.
weird. It's a really weird feeling about this boat. So, all right, moving on. That's pretty much it. Any other thing that you want to talk about? I know you guys just did a cast, didn't you, the other day?
That cast we'll just not mention that because like
Very well.
half the teams for the prelims didn't show up, and it really
Oh
ticked
man,
off a lot of us.
jeez, that kind of
Like
sucks.
it was horrible. It was like it was sickening to like see. Hey, people, guess what? We have a tournament going on. You want to do? Oh yeah, sure. Tournament day rolls around. Hey, where is everybody? You
Hey,
signed up.
nobody
Where are you?
showed up. Yeah.
Oh, we don't have people. It's like you make a commitment as a clan, and
Bad
you do this.
bad clan planning. All right, well we'll just I know you can get salty about that. We'll just skip over that one. Let's talk about ranked. 13 ranked season number 13 is out. 6 versus 6 tier 9s. Well, let me just tell you what I've done. I played 42 games and hit rank 5, all in the Z46. I haven't played anything else but that, and I can remember 4 games that I've actually boneheaded and died early, but the rest of the time I've been trying to control the middle, and we've actually done pretty well. I still expect another 200 plus games when I hit rank 5, which I haven't played in 2 days to let people filter up there. But overall, I'm enjoying this rank season. It's just another tier 9 rank season. 46 is my go-to here. What do you think? I know you were struggling today.
Yeah, today, like, just the season got off to a really rocky start for me because I started right away and I chose Mogador as my tool of the
Yeah,
trade, and it either does really well or it does really poorly because the team around you melts.
yeah,
And like when I do really well, I will one shot thing. I will one shot like Neptunes in a single reload booster and things like that. But I've actually been switching it around between 3 ships, just depending on what the meta sits at.
right. Well, I
But
know.
Mogador is my go-to
I
right
was
now.
watching a couple of guys play Mogador, and I've noticed something about it. You don't want to go 1v1 versus a Mogador as a destroyer, but the Mogador also needs just a little bit of help to completely dominate one side. It can do it, but if there's 2 or 3 people there, the Mogador is just going to take too much damage. I was watching Fox. Fox 4 had been, I saw him like 4 or 5 9 games in a row or something like that, and he was playing the Mogador, and it was me versus him for most of it, and it kind of sucked for me. I mean, it kind of sucked for me. He just kind of dominated me at every turn. We were able to whittle him down and kill him eventually, but but my God, trying to go up against that thing when it can hit you for 3,000 and 4,000 with just nothing but HE shells, and I'm sitting there doing, 3,000 or 4,000 on him with AP shells, man, and then he hits that fucking reload, man. I'm done, man. It sucks. It sucks playing against those, but if you as a Mogador can have a team or have somebody go with you to the top, then you guys can both tag team that DD and get out of there and control that side of the board.
I actually found that in the upper echelons of Mogador players, you can actually control a flank very easily. Like, I remember there was a game that I actually played against Fitz. Fitz, I'm sorry, I'm doing this. But, I actually single-handedly won the flank, took a cap, and then proceeded to farm 140k
Nice.
off of his team for the victory. And it was because that if unchecked, a solo Mogador, if unchecked, and if the player is competent, will push your shit in. Like, it's bad. I had a Georgia near the end of the game.
Right.
Chased me at about 10 kilometers. His secondaries are going off on me. My torpedoes are only 8, but I shot them anyway.
Yeah.
He ran into my torps and
You
died.
leashed him.
Like, he was completely leashed, just like completely blind to the fact that, hey, guess what?
There's torps
I'm
coming in.
shooting my torpedoes.
And as a battleship guy, when I hit those torpedoes that I know that are coming, I hate it. I hate it, man. I'm like, God damn it, I'm smarter than this. I know he's dropping his peds. Why didn't I keep sailing the same way? Why didn't I turn? Blah blah blah. And that's something that frustrates the hell out of me when I'm playing battleships is when I hit torps, because I know where the guy is, I know where the torpedoes are coming from, and yet I still ran into him anyway. It's so frustrating.
Kind of funny though. Like, when if you're facing a DD, you can usually tell when they're shooting torpedoes because the rain of HE will stop momentarily. But the thing is, what's so sneaky about the Mogador, you have just
reload.
you have a large enough window to shoot your torpedoes and then switch right back to your guns.
Yeah, it does really well. A good battleship player will, if they have priority target on, they can see when they make the swaps over. It'll flash. It'll flash one. When you go from, if you hit the 3 button for your torpedoes and switch back over to number 2 for your AP or whatever, it'll flash for that battleship. So if he's smart, he'll start making his turn there. But I've started to mess with that. Just hit it a whole bunch of times, and let him make his move, and then hit it a couple of more times. So just to see what he does. And yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say you can tell which one of the experienced battleship players, when they go ahead, as soon as you do that, they start making their turn, and this guy knows what he's doing. The ones that don't make their turn are the ones they're relatively new or not paying attention. So that's kind of the where I've been going with my torpedoes into battleships and shit later on. Overall,
sorry about that.
Overall, this season has been metaed up. Jutland's still the best. At the tier for DDs. I know majority of people.
Jutland is most consistent. Yeah,
agreed. Haven't seen a whole lot of 46s, but I have seen a lot of blacks. And the blacks have been hit or miss. I mean, I've had one guy, get this, man. We had one guy fight a Mogador, hit him with a slow pedo, and then started talking shit. It was like, man, nobody can 1v1 versus the black. And I'm like, dude, he shit on you. He's like, nah, I killed him. I was like, dude, you have 300 hit points left, and you were full. So don't sit there and give me the 1v1 versus the black. I trash blacks. I mean, although we traded, go ask Dort how the 46 is versus the black.
Now, speaking of the 46, I had a really funny moment today. My dark horse in this ranked season is TRB Gunboat Yugumo.
Uh-huh.
And people are like, oh, what the hell? You're taking the Yugumo? That's gross. Like, why are you doing that? You're literally a handicap to your team.
Nah.
Well, let's just put it this way. I roll a BFT spec Yugumo, full concealment. I managed to, at 10k HP, I managed to take a full health Z46 while only maybe taking 2,000-3,000 damage worth. Yeah,
it hurts. It hurts. Them damn Yugumo guns, man. We were talking about this with the Hayate. The AP damage that they gave this buffs to these Japanese destroyers were fucking beautiful for anybody that wants to shoot their guns.
Like, honestly, like, these guns are so underestimated. They're so underestimated, and a lot of Imperial Japanese destroyer players, they're like, I have guns.
Yeah.
Oh, I have guns.
Yeah.
Hello.
My
And a
my
lot of the time, they'll just smoke up and sit in their smoke and shoot torps, and it's just like you do realize you have a main battery armament too.
I think the biggest thing that we take away from this is that what a lot of people miss about the Yugumo 5.4 fucking kilometer detection. Do you know how deep you can get onto people before you're spotted? And I don't
That's
think
why
I
I
don't.
take TRB.
There you go. I don't think that people realize at how good these things are. That's why when you always see that shimikaze going out to the edge of the board, you're like, dude, you have 5.5 kilometer detection. You're an idiot. Why don't you come over here and use that for us instead of being selfish on the outside?
And he comes back at you with, "Oh, I have 20-kilometer torpedoes."
That
Well,
doesn't
guess
matter.
what? Max range is not effective range.
Yep. And then the same thing when you look at ASIO players, they do the same shit. I'm like, dude, you got a 5.4 kilometer detection range. Get in here. Let's spot. Let's use them guns. I mean, people, it always surprises me. I got a message the other day. We were playing the ASIO, and I gunned some dude down in a destroyer, and he was like, he sent me a message after the game saying something along the lines of like, I can't believe you actually used your guns. What a play. And I was like, whatever. I mean, it's just an average game, right? But just the guns and the detectability range on the Yugumo, I could see where it makes it extremely strong. It is also very risky to take torpedo reloader because you don't have that disengaged capability. But overall, if you're a skilled player at it, then you'll be fine.
I actually have a workaround for taking TRB. It's a little thing I like to call the speed boost module.
There you go. Turn away, hit the speed boost, and stop shooting. That's
I
the
mean,
only way.
with the speed boost going, even though you're not the fastest destroyer out there at 37.3 knots, if you get that boost going for like, I think it's like 3 minutes. It's like 3 minutes now, like plus 8% on that, and plus the speed flag. You're flying like low mid 40s.
Yeah.
And so you're basically zooming all over the map and like getting these torpedoes out, and people are like, where the hell is he going to strike from next?
Right.
So what I would usually do is I would go hover in between caps as the Yugumo, drop torps on the battleship lane, and then peace out.
Yep. That's all you got to do. Area of deniability is also very, very strong with the torpedo reloader. They're coming in here. I don't know quite where they're at, but here you go. Here's some torps. Maybe they'll hit. Maybe they won't. All right, let's move off of DDs. Any surprise DDs that you've seen do really well?
Let me take a look at my tier 9 roster. One moment. I haven't really seen anything that's out of the ordinary. Like the Kitakaze's still very strong. The Jutland's still very strong.
Very.
I've seen a lot of Fletchers, and I don't quite know why. Maybe it's because it's most accessible.
Fletcher's still strong.
A DD that I found that is underperforming actually, the Venom.
I am not surprised that that's underperforming it at all because it's very one-dimensional torpedo only. And like its guns kind of shit. And if you get into a gunfight, 4 guns on those, they kind of suck. So I'm not surprised that's underperforming. I'm surprised.
I managed to actually force out a Venom down in my Yugumo. So like just 4K, he was dead.
One I'm surprised I'm not seeing any more of in this meta this season has been, I've had so many 5DD games. I'm surprised I'm not seeing more Udaloys because Udaloys with a partner is fucking phenomenal. So I'm kind of surprised that I'm not seeing that. I have seen a few, and they've done very well. I think it was one of the 07 guys was playing Udaloy the other day with Dort. And if you go with somebody else that can spot better than you, you are going to absolutely dominate, man, with that Udaloy and that other guy. So I was kind of surprised to not seeing any more Udaloys. I think it's just the the detection of probably what kills that boat for a lot of people. But overall, Udaloy is a fantastic boat, and I'm kind of surprised people aren't playing it more.
I think I know why people aren't playing it. It's because the Jutland is more. It does everything that Udaloy does, but a little better.
Yeah.
Plus the Hydro, it gets the heal. It doesn't get a speed boost, but it gets the heal and the Hydro.
Yeah.
So like. The Jutland has the stealth torp window, and it has the rate of fire to make up for its deficiencies, where the Udaloy has more guns.
Yeah, I actually like. Let's go ahead and move into the cruisers. I've seen pretty much everything here. I still said that if anybody showed me all the games that they played in the Ibuki and ranked out in the Ibuki, I would give them some codes or whatever. That's still up for everybody if you guys want to rank out, but you got to play more than 50 games to rank out, or unless you rank out blah blah blah. It can't be just, oh look, I ranked out in the Ibuki and you only played one game. That's just not fair. But I'm surprised nobody's playing the Ibuki. It's pretty good. The Buffalo's been pretty prevalent. The Kronstadt's been pretty prevalent. Seattle's been pretty prevalent. Donskoy, all the radar boats there has been everywhere. Surprisingly enough, there's been some Neptunes out there, and we talked about this on your show earlier today about Neptune. And the majority of the Neptunes that I've played with or played against, they've just die, and they're stupid, or they go. Let's just put it this way. I'm not going to call out the guy's name, but everybody knows who this is. I was playing against Dort, and he was in his DeGrober, right? And I'm in my 46, and I go up over on Trident on the epicenter, and I go up. We're on the bottom. We go up to that big main island to hit the hydro to see what's on the other side. And next thing I know, I'm getting pushed out of my smoke, or I'm getting knocked around. I didn't even pop my smoke yet by a freaking Neptune that's right there. And I'm like, what are you doing here? I was like, this is a dangerous spot for you, Mr. Neptune. He's like, not if you smoke me up. I was like, look, there's that FDG right there with 6 kilometer hydro, and there's a radar right over here to our left on the other side. You're dead. He's like, it doesn't matter if I smoke. And he's like, oh, no shit. And then
he dies.
And then, well, I mean, not only did he die, but instead of humping the island and getting next to that island, he just backed up into Dort. And I'm like, what are you doing? He backed up and gave Dort range. And I'm like, this is stupid. And what a dumb play on this guy's part. But, playing with that guy for the last 6 or 7 seasons, I'm not surprised at all. Not surprised at all.
I've found that Neptune players are either extremely good, depending on who they are and like what clan they're in, or they have to decide between thinking and breathing at the same time.
Yeah,
and that's just the way it is. So it's either really good or really bad.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting. It takes a special player to do it. I mean, I've done the Radar Minotaur in a couple of the seasons and had very good success on it. And I also got shit on. But this is not something that I could do, and I can't advocate for Neptunes in this rank season because they're just too squish. And I know they're good boats, and I'm not trying to take away from anybody, but I just think they're poop for this rank season. But any surprises on the cruiser side for you?
Not really any big surprises to me. I've seen a lot of the super cruisers. So, for example, a lot of Alaska, a lot of Kronstadt. I see some Buffalo as well. The odd rune in San Luis. I mean, San Luis, I haven't actually seen any Ibukis personally.
Yeah.
And I haven't really seen any. I haven't seen any Azumas either.
I've seen a couple of Azumas, but they're generally pretty much out of the game anyway because they have to sit so far back because they just get shitted on. And so, are they effective? I don't know. Are they going to be effective in an epicenter type thing? Not technically. No. I mean, they have potential, but they have to sit so far back so they don't get pooped on that they're really not effective covering the actual caps. So I find it very hard. Alaska's probably been the most one that I've seen in the season because of the utility and the big ass guns. And I know you've been playing it.
It's so consistent. It's hard not to play it.
It's good. It's relatively tanky as well.
You play the Alaska. You've got that beautiful, beautiful Citadel. You've got these punchy guns with improved AP angles. You've got amazing HE. What's not to like? The only thing that's kind of bad about it is that you have a larger detection than most cruisers. You have a 12-kilometer detection, whereas some cruisers have 11 to 10.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think outdoes you is other super cruisers and maybe the Donskoy. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I have a hard time giving the Donskoy anything because I struggled playing through that thing, man. I went from the Chappie averaging 60 to 80,000 damage to the Donskoy playing it 100 times or whatever to get to tier 10 and only averaged 40K. I just could not make it work for me. Oof. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. And I know the Donskoy is not a bad boat. I just struggled with it. So whatever. As for that, that's all the cruisers. Let's go. Let's talk about battleships. Surprised that anybody has the Georgia. I think the Georgia is a terrible boat for rank season, but there are certain maps that it does work well on. North Epicenter does well on it. But other than that, I fucking hate this boat, man. 6 guns. I'm sorry, I don't like it. I think it's terrible.
Yeah, like for battleship wise, I do see a lot of Georgias, which as a Mogador player, I salivate. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, you got that big dumb heel, you're soft all over.
Yeah.
I don't even take IFHE on my Mogador.
Nah,
I'm that kind of guy.
you don't need to. 139's
So
pinned pretty good.
I mean, it's not about the pen; it's just about lighting fires. You have like
True.
obscenely high fire chance as the Mogador. Like if I scroll over it right now, you have a 13% chance
Yeah.
with 22 mils of pen.
I piss people off, and
Mhm.
I piss people off when I say stuff like this. But I don't think that the Massachusetts or the Georgia or even the Ohio when it comes out are good ranked boats. You want something
Mhm.
that's utility, and you don't want something that's one dimensional. And when you're unable to get that one dimensional on, how good is it? It's not. So, this is where I draw the line on good. But let's talk about the rest of the battleships. Seen a couple of
Yeah,
Freddies.
yeah.
I've seen Missouri's out the wazoo, Musashi's out the wazoo, fucking Soyuz out the wazoo. Uh, all good boats. I mean, they're all fantastic, and they have good utility. They're tanky,
Mhm.
and I don't know. What have I seen the most? Probably Missouri and Musashi. I've seen the most. I think a lot of people are just down on the Soyuz because it doesn't pin as well as the Kremlin, and it's still accurate as hell. But something about the
Mm,
406s, they just don't pin as good as the
I honestly
Vladdy
think
did.
it's the Soyuz's dispersion. Its dispersion ellipse is different from the Kremlin, and
True.
therefore you won't get as much damage, as well as the different caliber of guns. The trifecta that I've really seen, as well, is the Musashi, Missouri, and actually a lot of Jean Bart, because the
Yeah,
Jean Bart
yeah,
they
John
picked up.
Bart.
Like a lot of people are like, hey, yeah, let's pick this up. Like I always say, if you want Bourgogne but don't have the steel to get it, grab the Jean Bart. It's literally Bourgogne light.
Right.
So with the Missouri, you get the utility. With the Musashi, you get the overmatch. I mean, with the John Bart, if you put expert loader on that thing, your HE and AP is extremely potent,
Yeah,
and you're basically a super cruiser.
basically.
Um, I've actually seen a few Alsaces as well, and maybe the
I've been,
occasional Iowa.
I have not
But
seen
the
but one Alsace this in all 42 games I've played. Only one.
but again, to reiterate, I have seen a lot of like the premium tier 9
Yeah.
battleships. That's just basically been the meta.
Well, it's no brainer.
Maybe the occasional Sovietsky Soyuz, occasional,
Yeah.
and I use that very, 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 very loosely. The occasional Sovietsky Soyuz.
Overall, I'm not really surprised at the amount of Missouris and Soyuzes and Freddies that I've seen. I am kind of surprised, however. I have seen probably about 10 Izumo games. I was kind of surprised to see that. How effective were they? I don't know. We had a couple on my team that we just kind of won the game without them. But that was kind of like we win the game in the first 5 minutes, and they're just back there just cleaning up.
Take in mind
Basically what it is.
Now, take in mind, the Izumo did get a big buff. Its deck got buffed, its
Hmm.
accuracy was buffed, so it's actually not as bad of a boat that it used to be
Right.
in the first couple of years of this
Yeah.
game.
Well,
So we
now,
are going to see more Izumos because of the Japanese accuracy, and maybe people don't have access to the Musashi.
yeah.
But the Izumo, it's still a very strong boat and should not be underestimated.
Now going back to somebody like myself who played the Izumo beforehand, I ground through that entire boat not having one problem with it other than the short shots. Hitting broadside at the waterline from 6 kilometers, I would end up dropping all 9 shells short, and so I had
Oof.
to aim up. I had to aim up higher with the faster. For some reason, the faster shells drop short. And you see it on the Donskoy, or not the Donskoy, but you see it on the Dunkirk. You see it on any of these, the Richelieu. You see a lot of those with the faster shells coming out of the front only guns. They tend to drop shorter than they normally would. So aim higher, aim just a little bit higher, and you'll start seeing the consistency on that Izumo boat. Any surprises from you from battleships?
I haven't really seen any surprises. Like again, I only see the Musashi, Missouri, and the John Bart.
Yeah,
The only real surprise that I could maybe talk about is a couple Alsace games. That's really about
yeah.
it.
I
And like
figured
again, the
Alsace would be
Alsace.
more prevalent with its HE capability.
I mean, but why take the Alsace when you can take the Jean Bart and have the reload booster?
This is true. I mean, this is a very good point. I've always sit there and say if you're questioning what to get, John Bart or Georgia, always go for the John Bart. It just brings more to the table. If you guys are looking to spend some coal, I guess John Bart or Georgia. I get that question a lot. Maybe you get that question a lot, but I always push people
I
into
do get
John
it.
Bart first.
I like pushing people towards the Georgia simply because it has a lot of utility. Like the Jean Bart does have a lot more ammunition wise. Like its HE and its AP are very strong.
Mm-hmm.
However, the Georgia I feel has the utility. It gets the speed boost. It gets the Conqueror heal. It gets the Massachusetts repair party. It gets Massachusetts secondaries.
Hmm.
It's a little soft, and sure, you only have 6 guns, but it has so much more utility to make up for them.
Mm-hmm. All right. So there you go. That's rank season, man. Pretty much in a nutshell. Anything that we missed that you guys want to talk about, go ahead and leave a comment in the section below at sirvenomik or at viirtualsenpai, and we will hit those. We will hit those up at toward the end of the show. We don't have too many questions so far because we're just kind of explaining shit. But in our opinions, how do you guys like this season? Are you guys enjoying this season? I'm enjoying the season so far. I know you seem to be struggling because your team. It's all about the teams, man. Really, really and truly, it's all about the teams. I think this is the fastest time that I've ever gotten up to rank 5. But I sit there and think about we didn't start at 13. We started at 10.2 this time around. So maybe that had something to do with it, or maybe I'm getting better, but God knows it can't be that. So,
like I remember, like last season, you had the struggle, and I had the easy path, and now it's switched around.
what was the last season? The last
It was
full
tier
on
10. It was tier 10.
I fucking hate tier 10, man. I just hate tier 10 ranked, man. I just don't like that play style. But yeah, I definitely struggled, and it caused me to work into a goddamn conqueror to rank out, and just absolutely dominating a couple of guys that really put me in the put me into over the top there. You know, I hit a triple citadel from the back gun on a Zao from like 3 kilometers away, flat broadside. He was trying to get his torps off, and then the very next volley, I citadel the Montana from ages away with its AP, and we won the game. And that was a loss until those 2 kills. So I was pretty happy. I was pretty happy to just to fucking rank out.
I mean, I played purely Hakuryu to prove a point.
Yeah.
Like there's a like the Hakuryu is just so game changing with its AP bombs. You could be losing a game and you just fly in with your AP bombs and spotted to one. It's like, ha, that's a nice health bar you got. It'd be a shame if someone took 25,500 off of it. Blap, game changed.
I was playing the Enterprise last night, and it's got AP bombs, and I went in on a Demonies, and I actually got a good slingshot off, and I came back with 2 Citadels. It didn't do as much damage as the hack shells did, but it definitely hurt him, and I was like, holy shit, there's something to this thing, you know. They're like really confirmed that the slingshot is actually a good thing, and if you can work it, then man, good luck for the AA cruisers, man.
You haven't lived until you've gotten the sextuple Citadel from an Enterprise's bombers on a Moskva.
Jeez.
You gotta try for it, dude. You gotta try for it. Trust.
Nah, man, there's not too many Moskvas in the games when I play them, man. There's like maybe 1 every 10 games or something like that. I think with the Stalingrad and Kronstadt out there, people just stop playing a Moskva, man. I don't see it too often.
I mean, the Moskva still has a higher DPM than the Stalingrad, so honestly, I don't see why people aren't playing it. It has a buffed bow. Its legendary module is a literal laser dispersion sort of deal, and it's extremely strong. And I don't see why people shouldn't be playing it because it is still a very, very strong boat. It's extremely accurate. You have you have really good AP as well. It's again, I can't iterate enough how accurate it is with the legendary module. You also have that amazing bow where you're not going to get overmatched every time. You have that, like, I think it's a 50 bow, but it's very, very strong, and people should not underestimate it. There's a reason why a lot of the higher clans in tier 10 clan war seasons, they push Moskva, like nothing but a Moskva / Stalingrad comp with like a Kerr first up the middle, because those things are so tanky.
Yeah.
And if left unchecked, they will push through a flank.
Absolutely.
With the like it's disgusting. And if you don't pay attention to the Kerr first, then those cruisers are going to punish you. And if you don't pay attention to the Stalingrads, they're going to punish you. So it's a sandwich sort of deal.
Uh,
So
so yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's been an interesting thing trying to get these damages off, but I'm still a fucking trash carrier, man. I'm a trash carrier. So and as I'm last night playing the Enterprise in that same game, this Alaska is just bitching and moaning. Where's the planes? Where's the planes? I'm like, I'm trying to kill up and free up this other flank. Shut the fuck up. I don't care what the hell you have to say. You're a trash CV player. I've got 5 games in the Enterprise. Leave me the fuck alone. You know, get over yourself. Just because I didn't play around you doesn't mean I'm trying to play around the rest of the fucking team, man. Man, people like that piss me off.
now
But
imagine being in Alaska, an AA cruiser, a USN AA cruiser, and asking for planes aboard.
yeah, he shot
Forehead.
He ended up
forehead.
Exactly, dude. He ended up shooting down 29 planes, but he got wrecked by a Shokaku. And I'm like,
Yikes.
I don't really feel bad anymore. I was like, man, I kind of feel bad for this guy. And then he started taking a run at me, and I was like, you know what? Fuck this guy. I don't feel bad for him anymore. He deserved to die. So here we go. Let's move on into one of the 2 topics that I wanted to talk about today. I did a video the other day about good aiming rewards. Are you rewarded for having good aim? Now, initially, what are your thoughts when I say this?
It depends on the ship you play.
Depends on the ship.
Depends on the ship.
Okay.
Because you have ships that have different sigma values, different max dispersions, and it's too hard to tell. But if we're talking about boats like the Georgia and the Slava, well, the Slava in its last iteration,
right?
You were rewarded for very good shooting and precise pinpoint aiming with the Slava. I remember I dev struck a midway with ranged Slava last testing round with it, simply because the carrier went and spotted the guy. He was completely broadside about 20 plus kilometers. I took the shot and I smacked him around, took him from 100 to 0. So yeah. Good aim, depending on the ship, is rewarded.
All right.
However, in ships like the Gross or Kurfürst, you shouldn't expect to be rewarded for aim. For good aim.
In this world where I still feel that it's about 70-30 skill versus RNG. The 30%, where you pull that trigger at, your positioning and how you react to the enemy team. Those are the 30% of skill that you actually need in this game. The rest of it is left to RNG, because as soon as you pull that trigger, it's all out of your hands, and it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating for me to now. It's so frustrating to me when I pull the trigger and I'm like, this should be good, and then your shells just go fucking everywhere, and you're not rewarded for your skill. I find it very, very hard to accept some of the things that I'm actually seeing. I'm not a bad player. I have decent. If we want to go into stats, which I don't particularly care to do, 62% win rate. It's not terrible. Average damage is up and down because depending on what I'm playing that day. But battleships, I play very well, and that's not trying to be conceited or anything. But I seem to play battleships a lot, and I do well in them. But when I play the battleships a lot and I don't do well in them, how much of it is me and how much of it is RNG? It's so frustrating for somebody like me who prides themselves on taking this shot and getting those big nasty damages, because everybody wants to see them black ribbons, everybody wants to see them citadels, and you're rewarded with overpins, and you're rewarded with, okay, here's $6,000, but it should have been a kill, or overpins on a broadside thing from 10 kilometers. It's very, very frustrating.
Mm-hmm. So I would actually go as far to switch those percentages around and say it's 70% the skill and then 30% RNG, because you can still line up that shot and get, like, say for example, I'm playing let's see, what's a battleship that I played in ranked. I'm playing Musashi, and I shoot at a target, and I accidentally overlead him by just a small hair, and I get 6 overpins on his bow. I mean, that's gonna happen, but that's only because I aimed a little too far forward. The overpins only happen because you're hitting not the specified part of the ship.
True. But that's not always the case. How many of the other shots have you had on that same guy, putting right where you're supposed to, and your dispersion has gone extremely vertical, which Musashis are known to do, and you only hit 2 shells? and you get
Mm,
the
I
absolute worst dispersion, but you get one citadel out of that shitty ass dispersion. Where a tight dispersion, the very next shot you do, you have a nice tight dispersion, and you get nothing but overpins on the same area, or you get maybe 10 grand damage instead of the citadel that you were looking for. And so, bottom line is, good aiming rewards. Does it reward you for good aiming? The answer is yes. And the answer is also no. It does reward you when every once in a while, and it doesn't reward you every once in a while. It's just a matter of, can you accept the rewards that you get when you pull that trigger? And I think I have a hard time accepting the rewards that I get more than anything else. Because I've seen General Dart, and I've seen yourself just absolutely knock the shit out of people in the Bourgogne from 10, 15, 20 kilometers. And when I play that thing shotguns all over the place. That I'm like, I don't understand how these people are getting this. And it's literally a shotgun every time I pull that fucking trigger. So it's very frustrating. Can you accept the rewards that you get for having good aim? That's the question that people need to ask themselves. So do they reward you? Yes and no. Can you accept it? Answer that question.
Can I accept it? I mean, there's the thing that I like to call noob protection as well. So it really depends
Potato
on the
armor.
target that you're shooting. The potato armor, like we've all seen it before. We've
Yeah.
all experienced this before, where you'll shoot at a stationary AFK ship, and your shells go, you're like, "Yay! I'm gonna get some free damage!" And then they all plop around them. Not a single shell hits, and you're just like, kind of look at it, and you're just like, "What?"
I got a perfect example for you. I was playing a game in the gas can, which is notoriously shitty dispersion anyway, right? So I'm playing a game in the gas can, and which is the Tier 8 French premium gas cone. I hit this hipper, double citadel on one volley. He beached himself and was sitting dead still. And then it took me four double gun shots to finally finish him up for 1,000 hit points. 4 shots to kill that guy that was sitting dead still broadside, and I'm aiming right at his smokestack, or just under that smokestack, right in the middle of his fucking boat. So there's something to say about idiots sitting still and broadside, that there is some protection. So Amazon, was I rewarded for having good aim there? Fuck no, I wasn't. Was I pissed off? You goddamn right I was pissed off. So
I have a similar situation.
and I'm like, I don't understand it. These guys sitting dead still, broadside, they just not getting punished. And I'm like, this guy has got and so then starts the questions from the chat. Yo, there's got to be some kind of new player protection or fucking idiot protection here. And I'm like, get rid of the fucking dispersion off of the camo. And I think that solves a lot of problems. Because we saw it
Actually,
with the French flakes coming up, how many times we went into co-op games and playing that shit, how accurate we fucking were. I am so surprised that 3% of the dispersion factor makes that much of a fucking difference.
I actually had a similar situation to that today. If you guys came over from my stream today, I on hotspot on Epicenter on Trident, you guys saw me shoot 3 times at a black that was at 3k HP. I hit him with a single shell. I shot 3 salvos. I hit him with a single shell, and it left him on 1.4. I hit him with another shell. It left him on 300 HP. It took me 3 to 4 salvos at about 10 kilometers to finish this guy, and he's basically sitting still.
Yeah.
So good aim, it can be rewarded, and it can also be punished. Which is it fair? Maybe sometimes it is, maybe sometimes it isn't. But that's literally just RNG, and it sucks, but it's a part of the game. And you can't. It's kind of like you either can bitch about it, or you can just learn to accept and be like, all right, I got bent over, or oh yeah, I got the laser.
Yeah. Can you accept the differences? That seems to be the issue with a lot of people. I know I've had some really, really awesome shots that just absolutely dominate people. Me, Jace, has gone on and said, and I said this in that video as well, if you guys want to check out the video with a little bit more detail right there on the YouTube channel. Everybody remembers their bad shots, right? They remember those 2 bad shots that they had that were just absolutely bullshit that should have killed the guy. But nobody remembers the 3 depth strikes in between. And I know I know that I've gone through and I've gotten all these fucking really nasty depth strikes on people from 18 kilometers. You know, quad citadel on a Moskva sitting dead still in a Yamato from 30 kilometers. I've done that. I mean, everybody's done this, and everybody's done the 12-kilometer. Hey, it's an Omaha. I'm gonna fucking shit on this thing. Everybody's done that.
Mm.
So yes, everybody accepts that. But when you still have that same 12-kilometer Omaha shot and your shells go everywhere, oh my God, people bitch and moan because they're not being consistently rewarded for their good aim. So I think there's something to be said that there's a little bit in the game mechanics. Now, where do we go? How do you break it down? Is it me missing? Did I shoot too far forward? Did I shoot too far backwards? Is it that guy turning in, turning out? Is it the camos? I mean, where does that lie? And where's the excuse for that guy sitting dead still broadside and my shells go everywhere?
You know, I kind of have a thought about. I just had a brief thought about this, and it's kind of like, you know how when, for example, you shoot a gun, it's not going to go exactly where you pointed the crosshairs, right? This is just taking in, like, I think the RNG in it is really just taking into example that there are other motives at work in this world. So it's technically, like, even though this game is an arcade simulator, there are still simulator-esque mechanics in this game that affect gameplay and players who should otherwise be rewarded for their shot. But hey, guess what? Weather or wind says, ha ha ha, guess what? Guess what? You're missing this guy. Ha ha ha. You should see the look on your face now.
Well,
So I
fine.
think we kind of need to consider that.
I mean, we can consider that from the over, say 10-kilometer shells, right? I had just another example of bullshit RNG for me, playing the Nizanu. Fucking hate this boat because of the inaccurate shells. Run up in on a flint in his smoke, and I'm from less than 2 kilometers away, and I put my arc right here, right there on it, right there under his front guns, and I pull the trigger and I get a citadel, and the second shot, the two shells come straight out there, and the other 2 shells from the other gun literally drop straight off to the right, short of him at 1.5 kilometers. And I'm like, how the fuck can they let something like this happen when I'm going straight in with 2 of my guns and the other 2 guns go straight to the right from 1 kilometer? That makes absolutely no fucking sense to me. I absolutely hate that fact about the German boats, and this is where I lose a lot of love for the Germans at 7 and above. I think they're terrible.
You know what I call the Gneisenau now? You know what I call it now?
What's that?
I call it the XCOM simulator. You could be at 99% gonna shoot the guy in the head. You're like this, like shooting him, and then all of a sudden your gun goes, "Oh, I'm gonna miss this guy literally a meter away."
Pretty much. That's pretty much what it is, man. And I absolutely hate it and I disagree with it, but that's part of the game. And did I accept it? Fuck no, I didn't accept it. Did I kill the guy? You goddamn right I did, because I torped him. But that's another story for another time. But I should have killed him with my guns, with my main guns here, instead of shooting both of them here. At least I would have accepted maybe 2 shells hit, but the front 2 guns hit and the other 2 guns went off to the right-hand side. And I'm like, I don't understand that at all. Makes 0 sense from 1 kilometer. You would think that there would be the closer that they are, the more accurate the guns would be, not unlike the Russians. And I think it's a good mechanic that they've brought into the game to have better accuracy up close. Maybe they will take a look at it and redo it for some of these other boats. The Germans need some serious help on accuracy, and what they have planned to do with the secondaries isn't going to help the fucking Germans. They need accuracy buff. Desperately need an accuracy buff on their main guns.
Thing is though, you look at the Germans and they have extremely potent secondaries. Even their secondaries have quarter pen.
True.
So that's where the line promotes pushing. True. And if you're not pushing to utilize those gimmicks, then your main battery is going. Obviously your damage and numbers are going to suffer.
Right.
Play to the strength. That's the point of the Germans. You have to get closer. And I think there should be a thing where if Germans get like below like a percentage of their max range, they should have a similar dispersion ellipse to the Russians.
Yeah. So how much of it is you and how much of it is the game?
Well, again, like if we're comparing it to the Gneisenau, we know the Gneisenau is notoriously bad.
True.
accuracy wise.
So let's take let's forget about it and let's take one of the most accurate boats in the game. Would you agree Montana's probably pretty accurate?
Montana is accurate through volume, and that is why it
Okay.
is accurate.
Right.
There are 12 shells in the air, all hitting potentially like 13,000 damage citadels. Those are 406s all flying through the air at one single
Okay.
spot.
So let's
If you
break it
hit,
off.
you're going to smash it.
Let's take legendary Monumato then. How about that?
Legendary Monumato.
Nine
Also,
shells. Nine shells. Got an accuracy buff, and it does pretty well. I still miss the same shots. How much of it is me? How much of it is the RNG?
again, it also matters on the distance because I've had shots where I hit like at 20 kilometers with a Yamato, but I've also had shots where like at say, for example, 14, 15, 13 kilometers, I take the shot, the guy turns in, and I
miss everything.
I miss everything.
So
where not a lot of it is like there is RNG at play.
But even that,
but
how
at the
much
same
of it is
time,
you, and how much of it is RNG? See, that's
thing is,
the
though,
big deal.
the thing is, there's aren't just two parties at work.
No, I understand that.
There's RNG, there's the player, and there's the enemy player, and then there's you. So you have to also account like sure, if the guy's, for example, if the guy's sitting still or he's like AFK, you take the shot and you bracket everything. That's RNG. But if the guy turns in and you've taken this shot and it goes right through his bow and you get overpens and just and regular
That's
pens and no
acceptable.
citadels, that's acceptable.
That's acceptable
So-
because he is actively changing the results.
But if we're talking about the shots that we know should impact a ship and take it off the screen, like for example, that 2 kilometer bow fight or that 2 kilometer drive by, and the shot goes like pew off into the distance, then we know that's RNG. So
Yeah.
it really depends on the engagement and what exactly you're
Right.
exactly the situation is, or who
Absolutely.
you're playing against, what ship you're playing with. So realistically, sometimes it's RNG, sometimes it isn't. It's
Right.
literally just the situation.
And it boils down to my overall point of what can you accept with it. Can you accept getting this? Can you accept the 10,000 damage instead of the Citadel? Can you accept getting the overpins? If you can accept the RNG that you're given, then I think a lot of people out there will relax. I know if I can start accepting it more, the RNG that I'm getting, instead of getting frustrated with it, I'm going to have a lot more fun in this game. But with that being said, what do you guys think out there? What do you guys? Can you accept what you're getting? That you know you should be able to dominate this guy because of just your experience in the game? Is the game holding you back? Are you okay with the game holding you back? Because I know I'm smarter than a lot of the players in the game. Now I'm not again not trying to be conceited. And it's frustrating and I know I have a specific skill level in this game, being an average guy, that I'm not able to achieve that particular skill level because of some game mechanic, and it frustrates me. And there's no offsetting that RNG, and it's very frustrating to know that you can perform better than the game is allowing you to perform. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Now, there's a saying that I go by, like even if I miss a shot, but I only get a few overpens, there's a saying that I always go by: any damage is good damage. If you miss the salvo completely, then that's a fucking problem. That's a mechanical problem, and it's in between. It's literally a problem between your brain and the keyboard, if you know what I mean.
True.
If you completely miss a shot, the problem's between the brain and the keyboard. If you get a little bit of damage, any damage is good damage. Remember that.
Right. So anyway, bottom line is, can you accept what they're giving you? A lot of people can't. I know sometimes I can't, sometimes I can. Sometimes I can accept the 10,000 damage. So, hey man, it was 10 grand and I have to be okay with that. Hey, it was 8 grand. It was 6 grand. I hit something yesterday, 4 pins for like 2,000 damage. I was so pissed. I was like, dude, I just hit this guy for 4 times and only got 1,000 damage or 2,000 damage, whatever the fuck it was. I was so angry, and that is a big fuck you. And I'm like, okay, obviously I hit a gun, obviously I hit some kind of module, or I pinned a module that does no damage. I get that, I understand that, but it's so frustrating when you see that pop up, and then you see the damage over here. And can you accept this? And I struggle with it, and I'm gonna go. I struggle with it, and I will continue to struggle with it as long as I'm playing a game, because I feel like I should be performing the better than what the actual numbers show.
Now, a friend of mine actually just said it in the chat. every salvo, you should expect the worst case scenario. So, like having like the
expect
lowest
the worst
standard,
and hope for the best. Yeah. So
exactly.
that way you're never disappointed.
Exactly.
Yep. So there you go. And no, it's I don't know. I think it's on both of us. I don't think it's just strictly on me or strictly on the game. I think it's a little bit of both. The game is designed to keep you down at about 50% win rate. That's the game. That's what the game is designed to do. So I see a lot of games where I absolutely dominate, and then I see the next game where I hit everything, and then the next game I hit nothing. Playing the same boat, making the same shots. Obviously, two different circumstances, but I do see a difference. And everybody has those games where they start off like a fucking bat out of hell. They hit 3 or 4 citadels on the broadside of this boat. The third shot on this guy just flat out misses, and every shot after that for the rest of the game you just miss. And then I've also seen where you start out like hitting like shit, where you're aiming for the right spots and your RNG just says fuck you, and it goes nowhere. And then toward the end of the game you start hitting the shots again. And I don't know if that's me or if that's an RNG. I don't know. I mean, I have probably one of the worst RNGs in this game when at least that's the way I think. When it comes to accuracy, and we could jump into fire chance, but that's a whole nother podcast. But I think that there's something to it, that the game is holding some people back. I don't know, maybe not holding some people back, but the game is, you're doing too good, let's fuck you over. I don't know, tinfoil hat time there, but.
I just had a bit of a thought. You know how people say the German battleships are the worst and they're the least accurate, correct?
Well, I know B6 has said one of his most accurate boats is the Gneisenau.
But you know how a lot of people, like the general consensus is German battleships are inaccurate.
Yeah, they're
correct?
terrible. Yeah.
The only problem is why they're inaccurate is because they have less volume of shells going out. So, for example,
it's 8 versus 12.
For example, like at tier 6 or tier 7, you have the Gneisenau, which is shooting 6 shells in total. When you get the Leon, which is considered one of the more accurate ships,
which is
shooting
fucking
12
terrible.
guns with 12 guns.
Which accuracy in shotgun form and accuracy versus pistol form. Let's basically put it that way. You have a shotgun. Yeah, you have 12 shots out there, and you might hit 6 or 7 of those shots, but where'd the rest of them go? Versus the 8 shots, where you can only manage to hit a total of 8 shots. And do you do that? Probably not very often. Do you hit all 8 shots, or do you not even hit all 12 shots? Or 16 guns, on the Lion. But so there's a lot of margin for error in something with more guns, where there's less margin for error. I would just like to see some of the Sigma or some of the dispersion tightened up on the Germans to make them a little bit better, to make them a little bit more accurate and more deadly with their main guns. I think the Germans have been power crept out quite a bit, and I think that instead of working more secondaries, they should work. To compensate for this, they need to go back and they need to relook at the accuracy of these boats, the Bismarck, the Gneisenau, the fucking Tirpitz, the Freddy, and even not so much the GK, because it's got 12 guns, but their accuracy is so terrible and there's so much margin for error, they become almost ineffective one-dimensional boats, which doesn't lead into very team-oriented bullshit.
I don't think we should buff the accuracy on the guns, simply because that would promote sniping from the back, which we already have a big problem with. Now, in order to buff the German battleships, what I see is modify the armor to make them a little more tanky. Give them either a bigger heal, or make it so their heals come off of cooldown quicker, so they can have a little more survivability, so they can afford to push into that unfavorable situation and get more damage. Now, the Germans they're not accurate in game at all. We already know this. We've gone over this. We sound like a broken record at this point. But the thing is, though, if you buff their accuracy on the main battery, you need to take away from their secondaries, but you can't, because that's their national flavor.
Yeah.
If we take away the national flavor, they become a copy pasta of another nation, aka the French, which have similar secondaries and a little better accuracy. So I would like to avoid buffing the main accuracy of the main battery accuracy, but instead increasing the survivability of the boats, so they can make those pushes, but still get punished, but not punished as hard. So they can basically be like, you know what? I can take a beating and I'll probably die, but at least I can do a little more in it.
Yeah. There's a comment here that I wanted to touch on right now, and this particular tone has said that it's on me. The game is computerized, and I'm like, wait a second. Now, how the fuck is it solely on me missing these shots when I'm aiming for the right spot and the game fucks you over? As soon as you pull that trigger, you have zero control over where those shells go. How the hell is it all on me? Think about it. It's all RNG. Now, where I put that shot is completely and solely and 100% on me. Now, if I miss forward, then obviously I made a bad shot. But if I hit that spot and I pull the trigger right where it's supposed to be, and then the game goes and shit's all over the wall, and I miss everything, that is not my fault 100%. I mean, that's all in the fucking game itself.
No, it's not just on the game. It is partially on you and it's partially on the game, but it's also, there's too many variables to really narrow it down to two.
I understand
You can't narrow it down to that.
No, I totally get that, but just throwing it wholly on one side or the other, I'm saying that yes, partly it's on me and partly it's on the game, but he's saying that it's completely on me, and I find that fucking bullshit. It's not completely on me. So open up your minds and think about it. And that's basically all I wanted to do with this topic, is to start people thinking about what can you accept when you actually pull that trigger. Can you accept the fucking, citadels? Can you accept the nothing? Can you accept the, this looks really good, but then drops short? I mean, and speaking of that, there's a bug that I have that have been going around where everything is dropping short. Have you seen this?
I haven't seen that recently because I've been getting like my good shots. I've been aiming. I usually aim high.
Yeah.
With my ships anyway. Like people would be like, oh, right in the water line, if not in the water.
Yeah.
I lead mine just a slight bit higher just to compensate for it. Compensate for a turnout. But going back to the point of where it's solely on Venom, it's not just his fault. There's too many variables at play to solely blame it on the player. Now, if you completely miss a ship,
that's on you.
Zero shells hitting, then that's completely on him or you or the player. But if you hit someone, then and you don't get the desired effect. I mean, there's just too many variables. Like they're either dodged or RNG said, hey, guess what? You're not hitting that target. But even if you miss every single shell, it is not completely on him. That player either read your movements or you just completely missed your lead and you need like prescription glasses to shoot.
Yeah. I mean, I sit there and say I sit there and I will shoot a lot of shots, and I was shooting terrible the other day. I mean, just absolutely awful, just missing everything here, everything there, and then finally toward the end of the game, and it was on me for not leading these guys correctly, and I solely took that responsibility. And then when I finally started aiming the right, I was shooting at a Fiji that was going away from me, but I kept shooting him short because I forget that those guys are pretty quick, and over the 32 knots, and started leading an extra tick, and was finally one-shot him. But it was a fucking pain in the ass, dude. Yeah, jeez, it was a mess. But overall, that's it. Can you accept it? Can you not? Guys, we're hanging out with my man Viirtual Senpai. You guys can hit him up over on his Twitch channel, twitch.tv/viirtualsenpai. If you guys don't know who he is, where the hell you been? Community contributor. And weeb extraordinaire at Viirtual Senpai over on the Twitter. And, of course, sirvenomik. You guys can hit me up on twitch.tv/sirvenomik, which is right here. And then sir_venom_ik over on the Twitters. All right, boys, let's move on into our next topic here, judgment. Now, you guys see that here right up underneath my little camera box here is judgment. We have come to the realization that I disagree with a lot of people about a lot of things, and Senpai does as well, and he disagrees with me about a lot of shit too. I have sat there and asked this question: what do you guys consider a good boat? How do you guys go about considering this guy a good boat? Is it because you play it well, and you're jaded because you're playing it well? Is it because the stats are good? Is it because you perform well in it? What do you guys judge what a good boat is? What do you guys judge? What would you consider? Because I know a lot of people judge a boat, oh, this boat is good because it's fun. And I'm like, well, this boat is terrible It might be fun, but it's a terrible boat. A la the Bismarck. A lot of people love the Bismarck, but I think it's a terrible boat. A lot of people love the Massachusetts, and they think that it's fun. And yes, it is fun, but I think overall it's terrible. I think it's an awful boat. Very questionable accuracy, and you're only good at one thing. So how good is it? How good is it for you? What do you guys judge?
Like, I think the whole thing, like the judgment thing, like, is a boat fun? It really depends on what your definition of fun is. Now, I can for sure say that for those of us in '07 and 007, a fun boat for us is one that performs above and beyond those that are left in the pack. So, for example, a lot of us loved the Henry when the Henry was in its heyday. A lot of us are very excited about the French destroyers. A lot of us, although a few of us hated CVs, we liked them because they had so much control. Fun for the Unicum or the Super Unicum or the competitive player is a boat that can do a ton of damage. Now, it really depends. Again, it goes back to your definition. If you are a player that, like, just casually gets on, plays 2 or 3 games a day, does whatever, doesn't care about the win rate, doesn't care about that, it's really just about what you enjoy. Like, hey, like, guess what? I'm racking up like 50 billion secondary hits, for example, in the Massachusetts. It could be a garbage boat, but if you enjoy playing it,
exactly,
that's you. There's the difference between the casual player and the competitive player.
Right, exactly. I think that one of the most underrated boats in the game is the Dunkirk. I fucking love that boat. I absolutely love the Dunkirk, man. And a lot of people hate that boat because for whatever reason, they can't make it work. I had a game last night, 6 fucking kills in it. 6 kills in a Dunkirk, and, well, we lost the game, but that's besides the point. I had 6 kills in this thing, and I was getting citadels, a double citadel to freaking Ismail for a kill. I did a drive-by on an Arizona for 25,000 damage and no citadel, but I hit every shot. So I mean, there's some really good things about this, and a lot of people hate it, and they don't think that it's a good boat, and they don't think it's fun. There's boats out there that I struggle with. The Bliskovica. It's a fantastic boat, and I know it's good because I've watched people do ridiculous shit in there. I just can't make it work for me. Do I like it? I don't like playing it because I suck in it. So where do you go? Where do you get off judging what is a good boat and what is not a good boat? This is This is obviously a personal opinion. This is definitely 100% personal opinion. I think people I think people that need that need to realize that not everybody likes the same kind of shit that you like. And I think this solves a lot of problems because people come in there, oh man, fucking GK's that's a good boat, man. It's really fun to play. And I'm like, well, technically it might be fun to play, but it's a fucking terrible boat. It's good at one thing and its guns are questionable. So even with the big 420s. So where do you go? What do you do, Senpai?
Well, it goes back to like your definition of fun and the situation that you're in. If you're a random star, then it's realistically whatever you want to play, whatever you like to play. That provides fun for you, and that defines a good ship in your opinion. Now, as we go into things like ranked battles and clan wars, there are ships that define the meta, and those are good ships.
Right.
Like, for example, Radar Edinburgh is very good in this clan war season. And so is the La Terrible and La Fantasque because they're very, very fast.
Right.
And they have those big guns that can punch out cruisers. So it really, the definition of a fun or good boat, it goes along with a ton of the questions we all got in high school with those big worded questions. It varies. It really varies on the situation, what kind of player you are, what your play style is, and what you like to do, what your definition of fun is in both warships. It really just depends.
My definition of a good boat are utility boats. They're not good at one thing, but they're good at just about everything. Does that make sense? Like
the Swiss Army knife.
Well, pretty much like the Montana. I think it's probably the most versatile boat in the game at tier 10 because it's good at range. It's pretty decent at up close, and if you need to push in, I'm not afraid to push in with a Montana. I mean, this is a very good all around boat. The ones that I was going to say struggle with, but I don't necessarily struggle with them. The ones that I don't enjoy playing are the ones that are very one dimensional. This is a only sniper. I don't particularly care to play the Yamato that much because when you start pushing in under 10 kilometers, its guns become questionable as well. The GK is only good up close. You can still do a lot of damage at range, but it's not as consistent as you are from up close. And so those particular one-sided, one-dimensional boats, I tend to shy away from. So I play a very average, well-rounded boats, and that's the ones that I enjoy the most. You
Now
see,
for
yeah, go ahead.
Now for me, I personally like the gimmick boats. Like for example, I believe the first time I ever spoke on the podcast, my favorite boat was a Stalingrad because it was so incredibly accurate.
Yeah.
But it kind of felt like a one-trick pony. But not only that, sure, it had I like the boats that have the gimmicks and that are kind of strong in some areas, and then pushing them to see their exact limits to see if they can truly become somewhat of a jack of all trades. Like for
True.
example, with the Mogador in its current state, it has a 7.1 kilometer max detection. You can technically make it a torpedo boat. So I like having those options, like the options in those kinds of boats.
True.
Like the little bit of options, not like complete Swiss Army knife, but can also perform a secondary role, but also has a very, very strong primary.
Yeah, there's also things to be said about the boats that I enjoy. A lot of people, and I will agree with them, think the Nelson's shit. A lot of people think that the Nelson is terrible because it does not tank. It does not tank at all. And I find that I enjoy that boat more than a lot of the other boats at 7 because it takes a little bit of fucking skill to play. I want to play something that's a little bit weak, but a good skilled player can make anything work in anything. Does that make sense? So I love the Nelson and I love playing it because of that reason right there. Yes, I make mistakes and yes, I get dominated, but there's also a big string of games in a row where I'm hit 100,000, 200,000 damage all in this thing and I barely take anything. And I'm not sniping and I'm right up in their fucking grill. That takes a little bit of skill. So getting those highly skilled boats, which highly skilled boats are obviously a subjective term. Nelson's highly subjective. I think that the British cruisers take a lot of skill to play. The German DDs, I think that they take a lot of skill to play because if you fuck it up, you're dead quickly. And that can be said about anything, but I think that some of these other DDs, like the Kebab, it takes a little bit of skill to learn how to dodge these shots. The Henry takes a little bit of skill to learn how to dodge these shots. And I think that the higher skilled boats out there are the ones that I lean toward. I don't lean toward the very boneheaded, dumb play styles, or I'd say dumb play styles, but the less skilled play styles of a pushing boat, GK, the Massachusetts, Georgia, I don't really find those very skillful at all. And so I tend to shy away from those, and I don't have very big high hopes for those things.
Again, just going back, fun is it's all subjective. Good boats are all subjective as well. It depends on what it's just you can't define a good boat unless you have a variable in place, and it's just the weirdest thing. You'll get in an argument on someone in the forums, in a Facebook group or over Twitter, and you'll be like, "Oh, this boat's good." Oh, and they'll say, "Oh no, it's trash. I can't play it." It's yeah, you can't play it.
Yeah,
I can.
Yeah, and then there's that. Well, you're not playing it right attitude. And I'm like, man, fuck you. You're not even getting into the point reasons why I like it. If I don't like something, I try to give a good reason why I don't appreciate this boat or I don't like this boat. And it's not just, I don't like it because I suck in it. It's never that, because I can make anything work. And that's the key here. If I choose to play that boat, I'm going to play it the best of my ability, and try to play the smartest game that I can. So it always pisses me off when people, oh well, I can make it work. Fuck you. And I'm like, fuck you, man. That shit always pisses me off. But either way, there it is. That's the point of Wargaming releasing the different types of boats, just like FTM has just said. So people like different things, and people like the easier things, and what I think is easy, people think might be hard. I mean, I think Omaha is a perfect example of boat that I absolutely despise because it's squishy as fuck. But a good Omaha player can be very skilled in that thing, and that takes a lot of skill to play the Omaha and not die. You know,
Precisely.
and I respect people that can do that. I hate the fucking boat, and I think the boat is terrible just because of the squish. But it's not a terrible, awful boat because if you have good skill in that thing, you can do very well. And that has nothing to do with me getting shit on it. It's because I'm shitting on them 90% of the time. So there's a lot to be said. There's a lot to be said. I'm interested in what you guys have to say about how do you judge a boat? Is it good because it's fun to play, or is it fun because it's a good boat? Think about it. Think about it, and let me know what you guys think. What do you think on that? Give me your last little bits here.
I mean, again, I'm just gonna say, like, the definition of a good boat will vary throughout each player, but there are going to be times when more players than not will agree that a boat is good, and that's how a meta is defined.
There you go. There you go, boys. All right. So I guess that's it, man. You got anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here? Before we go
We're
into
gonna
the
go through
Q and
some
A,
IFHE.
we can touch on it. Yeah, go ahead. Start it up.
I mean, there has been the argument that IFHE is too much of a defining, like, are people like you? We spoke about this before. Like, are people too dependent on it?
I Too dependent on IFHE. I think people need to pay attention to IFHE. But they kind of contradicted themselves. Wargaming did with this. They want people to choose. They force the battleships to choose AP over HE. Correct. So they do that. And then they come back and they say IFHE is going to be mandatory on this under tier boats. It's going to be mandatory. So I don't understand the reasons behind the mandatoriness there. You're forcing me to make a choice on the battleships, but now cruisers are going to be mandatory to have the IFHE. I still have a captain that I play on my Atlanta without IFHE. Now, obviously, IFHE is a better choice, but I'm going for the more fires. So who knows? Who knows? I'm interested in the way that they're going to change these mechanics for IFHE and then the actual armor schemes. It's not really an armor scheme, but hopefully you guys understand what I'm talking about because I can't explain it. But maybe we'll start seeing a little bit more consistent shots in the battleships to pin these guys when they change up the way that the sides of the boats are. I don't know. If that makes sense.
Yeah, like, yeah. So I just completely lost my train of thought.
I did too.
Holy, like,
do you have?
There's a lot of
Go ahead.
There's a lot of boats that where the AP is actually way stronger than the HE. Not a lot of people know this, but I believe Euro actually presented it in his last video about the Prinz Eugen / Hipper. Your
Yes.
AP will do way more damage than your
HE.
HE on any angle. If you hit a superstructure, you're going to get that massive number because the HE is so anemic.
Yeah.
So honestly, like with certain boats, try experimenting with the different shell types. Like you may be pleasantly surprised. Look at the stats. Don't always go with the flow. Like again, there's tons of ships out there that you'll be very surprised that their AP is actually way more potent than their HE.
I think I think this goes into the next video that I did about the IFHE. This is a very perfect segue. Thank you for this. A lot of people sleep on AP, and I think that they do themselves a disservice. Now, we had this conversation with BFK the other day, and they said we've done the math that AP staying on IFHE is better in the Jutland than going to AP. Well, I went and I was watching OGisms yesterday, and he was playing the Jutland. He was still getting 3,000 and 4,000 damage volleys with its AP on the broadside of other DDs from 4 and 5 kilometers. So I disagree with that. Then I think a lot of people sleep when they have IFHE. It gives them a false sense of security. It gives them a false sense of damage, so much to the fact that they lose that AP swap over to get that extra damage. Obviously, with the German DDs, you want to main AP if you can because it's just better overall. But with something like 127s, probably you want to stay on the HE because that's just not that great. But the Japanese stay on that high HE alpha. But some of these other ones, the Grozovoy, the Udaloy, all these Russian boats, all the French boats, these are really, really good AP boats at the bigger calibers and some of the smaller calibers as well that you can tick people playing the Kitakaze. I was watching Atrox play the Kitakaze. He stayed on HE so long on the broadside of this battleship. I was like, yo, AP that motherfucker. He swapped over to AP the next game and was getting, 1,200 damage, 4,000 damage. It was just so much damage that you miss out on by not swapping over.
And this is why I always push people to look at the actual stats of your ship and try and dissect what they actually mean, and look at the ships that they'll be facing. This is why I always push people, don't always just rush into games and then complain about a ship because you're gonna look like and say something really you might say something really stupid. So this is why I push, go look at the numbers. Look at what you can kill and look at where you should aim. For example, I play the Mogador a lot. I don't take IFHE on the Mogador because the fire chance is so high. I only pen 22 millimeters of plating with my HE, and that's fine because I'm going after the superstructure for the fires.
Right.
I'll get a 3K cell, but the thing is, though, I'm not discounting the AP either because, as people have seen before, you catch a Neptune or a cruiser broadside, you're clapping his cheeks.
Yeah, you can knock the shit out of it. Bottom line is get out there and try it for yourself. Get yourself into stupid situations, and then try the HE, and then try the AP. Obviously, it's going to be, results may vary, but I tend to find that the people that swap over to AP more often generally do the best. That's not to say that you can't do good with only HE, but I think a lot of people miss out on it, especially on the British DDs. Those 112s, they do good, but you're fighting against other DDs, and you can really hurt them. And regardless of what the numbers say, I can just go by the way it feels, and it feels okay to go to AP, and it's fine because I played against Mijesh in my 46, and he hits me as soon as I go broadside. He swaps over to that fucking AP and fucking knocks the ever-loving living shit out of me, with it, 2,000 and 3,000 damage volleys. So I think a lot of people. And you can even expand this conversation to cruisers. Some of the 155 cruisers, the Kudrsav does okay with its AP on broadsides of things, but majority of the time you're going to stay on HE. I know that a Demonies out there with 203 with IFHE on it is dumb. And it does a lot of damage, but why? Why would you want IFHE on that boat when you can just swap over to that heavy AP and get 10,000 damage on the broadsides and stuff? So expand it. Try something new. Go away from what everybody else is telling you and try it out for yourself. That's all I'm encouraging people to do. I'm not saying one is better than the other. It's in the end, it's a personal preference and a personal feeling of how you want to play the game. But go out there and try some of these things yourself and make up your own fucking mind. I don't care what BFK says. I don't care what Senpai says. I don't care what the chat says. Go out there and find what you guys want to do and find what works for you. If you want to just follow along, then fine, follow along. Then don't worry about it. But if you want to actually get into the deep to this game, the only way to do it is to actually try it for yourself. So that's what I encourage people to do. Put on the IFHE, but don't forget to swap over to the AP.
Now you're gonna laugh at this. So for the Azuma, they cross out IFHE.
Right.
Now the thing is, though, at that matchmaking, you're gonna be facing things that have incredibly thick decks, like the Kremlin, which has a. Hang on, I'll pull it up. It has a. Oh, where's the armor profile? It has a 60 millimeter deck, and we mentioned earlier that the Kurfürst has an extremely thick extremities, 60 mils. Now you take IFHE on the Azuma, and you are actually penning these extremities. You are actually getting through the deck of the Kremlin. So not everything is what you think it is. So think for yourself and question, guys. Question logic. Do the numbers. Crunch the numbers. Crunch the numbers. Figure it out.
I find it. I also find it interesting in this dynamic of this world that we're in World of Warships from the EU and the NA. I think so many people are blind to numbers. I think they take numbers solely as truth, which generally they're the facts, right? But then they have no flexibility when you actually go out there and play the thing. This is the way it should be, and this is the only way it should be. The best thing about those recommended builds and what you can and cannot take is that they're recommended. do whatever the fuck you want to. This game is so good about letting you play how you want to play, and so regardless of what the numbers say, throw those out the window for a couple of days and just go try something stupid and something that you might think will work and something that maybe this won't work, but try it anyway, and you'll be pleasantly surprised at some of the results that you get.
And now I would like to say this. I'd like to draw the line here. Please, for the love of God and all that is holy, don't put carrier talents on a surface ship. And all right,
and then come
Please
back and
don't.
say, "Senpai, you're an idiot. Why did you tell me to do this?" Yeah, I mean, come on, man, guys, be smart about it.
Like there's a line to draw when we say be adventurous with your talent points.
Yeah.
All right.
So getting back to this IFHE change real quick, Senpai. Do you think it's a good idea for them to change that? I know that they're lowering 50% on the fire chance.
I think that this was kind of directed at. It was almost an indirect nerf to the Henry.
So Worcesters.
I mean, to the Henry especially, because even with IFHE, that thing would melt battleships. It would melt battleships, and it would still set fires. So now that this thing has a bit of a lessened fire chance, it might be more balanced, and we could see a meta shift in the next Tier 10 Clan War season.
If you guys don't know what he's talking about, the 240s on the Henry with IFHE can pen 51 millimeters of bow armor. So 50 millimeter bow armor, Stalingrad's, Moskva's, the Moskva doesn't have it, but these battleships that have 60 millimeters, Karfurst and shit, you can actually do a lot of damage to these guys and get a lot of pins to its fruition. Now with the even with the minus percentages of to fire damage, the more pins that you get, the more chances you have for fire. So IFHE tends to be a better chance for setting fires than some of the others. Now some of the smaller boats, the smaller guns, don't have that much of a fire chance to begin with, so it does kind of hit it there. But for the bigger guns, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Or just and please, guys, don't do IFHE Yamato. That's just dumb. So you're going to, at the Tier 8 boat, should be able to pin all the battleships and all the cruisers at that tier, but they will have to take IFHE to pin the guys above them, right? Isn't that the way that it reads?
I believe so. I haven't fully read it, but if that's a thing, then I don't think the Atago with its 203s should be required to take IFHE in order to pen a Tier 10 battleship. That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, there's a whole chart, and I don't have that chart looked up. I don't have that chart open in front of me right now, so I can explain it. But basically, with the 155s and the 152s, you're going to have to take IFHE to pin the Tier 9s. At 203s, I believe you'll be able to pin the battleships at your tier and then the tier higher. With the I think it's just all 203s can pin, so I believe that's the way that it's supposed to go. But the smaller guns you will be forced to. So like the one was it 52s or 55s on the Worcester, you should be able to pin that thing without IFHE. Which leads to fuck you more fires. Which leads me to another podcast. They should fix fucking fire prevention to make it better.
The thing is, though, I think fire prevention in comparison to not having it, I'm just gonna leave it at this.
I want it.
It's a lot better to have it because you're comparing the dots of 3 fires to 4.
My biggest thing is that fire, and God damn it, there's another hour conversation, but I think that 10%.
Let's just make it short.
Yeah, for 10%. For 10% reduction in fire chance is bullshit. Is absolute bullshit. When you're sitting there looking at something that has 64 and 65% fire chance, you're taking 10% off of that. It's still above 50 fucking percent. That's a little bit. They need to up that to about 40% fire reduction, and I'll settle for 25. That's all I'm saying. That's good that the 3 fires are on there, but if you're on fire all the time anyway, what does it really do? But anyway, that's all I want to say. Because that's a whole nother podcast. So overall, can you accept the RNG that you're given when in your shots, and what actually makes a good boat for you? How do you like to play? I think that takes into big consideration. And what boats did you play well in? I mean, I know a lot of people. I like that boat. I play well in it, or I like that boat, but that boat sucks. I've heard that a lot. I like that boat, and I play well in that boat. But my God, this thing struggles. Bob and Abruzzi, Tier 6, what's that? Duca d'Aosta.
Yeah.
I like that boat and I play well in it, but that thing sucks. That thing is just bullshit. Absolutely has some of the weakest damage that I've ever seen. It's got really fast shells, but my God, they don't hit very hard at all. Very light AP, very light HE. It just seems a bullshit boat. You know, but I like it and I play well in it. Does that make it a good boat? Not really. So I mean, there's examples across the board. I mean, like I like the boat and I think the boat is great, but I play it like shit, so I don't play it very often. The Bliss. I mean, that's another example. So either way, they all can't be great. Can they be balanced? Can all the boats be balanced? Just because it's a balanced boat doesn't mean it's a good boat. And I know the majority of the people out there don't want balanced in this game. They want the overpowered fucking boats. They want to play the overpowered things. And I totally understand that. The Yu Yang was considered overpowered, and I played the shit out of it, and I did very well in it. Since the nerf, it's more balanced. And is it still as good? It's okay, but it doesn't do what it used to. So take that in consideration. What do you guys consider? How do you guys judge? That was the big point. Mm-hmm. Get you guys to thinking. IFHE, go try it out on different things. Swap over to AP. That's just a mental issue. Try to break some of the meta mentality that we have there. It's not all about the numbers. It's not all end all be all because this number says this, that number says that. It's going to actually perform the way that it shows. So either way, guys, that's it. Let's go into the Q&A. You got anything else before we go into Q&A?
No, but I don't have anything really to say, but thanks for having me again, Venom. It's been a pleasure.
Dude, these are always fun, man. I love doing these things with you because we talk about some serious shit. All right, well, maybe we kind of half-ass talking about serious shit and we just kind of fuck off with it. But I've always enjoyed talking to you about different things because it gets a different perspective, and this is why I love talking, having the podcast and having different people on because everybody has a different perspective on things. I like a boat, you don't like a boat, and vice versa, and we could sit here and have a logical conversation about it, whereas most people are like, fuck you, you'd have no idea what you're talking about, and then they just move on, which I don't appreciate. So there you go, guys. If y'all got any more questions, comments, or concerns, let's get in there. Before we get that, just want to let you guys know, programming update. Friday the 16th, we're going to do a 24-hour stream right here. We're going to dump a whole bunch of codes. I got like 130 goddamn codes to dump. And so we're going to do that on Friday. And then Tuesday, my man C. Atrox on the 20th will join us for the podcast. And 27th, I got Stats Bloke. It's going to join us over from the great 52nd state of England. It's going to join us over here in the podcast as well.
I actually do have one thing to say. On the 17th, on Saturday the 17th, August 20 of August, the playoffs for Fight for the Flagship, the North American Invitational, will be taking place. So this is the filler for King of the Sea. It is region law specific, so you'll be able to see some of the pros duke it out, such as 07, ZR, Guy Shu and Friends, PSV, any of your big favorite clans, the ones that you see in games, the ones that carry the teams on their backs. They will be all getting together, going head to head, and duking it out for the top spot in NA.
Falco clan.
You and I both know about Falco.
Yeah, we know about Falco. Is your 90th clan going to be involved this time around? All right, never mind.
I believe 90th is involved.
All right, good.
Actually, unironically.
Good. Yeah, that's totally unironic there. Guys, we've been hanging out with my man Viirtual Senpai today, man. Go hit him up on his Twitter at Viirtual Senpai, and over on his Twitch at twitch.tv/Viirtual with 2 eyes, man. Go give that dude a follow if you guys haven't done it yet, man. He's fucking fantastic. Of course, I am sirvenomik. You guys know, the average man of America, at sir_venom_ik right there. You guys also on the YouTube, twitch.tv/sirvenomik. We're live every night, 7 p.m. U.S. Central Time. What's your schedule on your Twitter or your Twitch?
Well, right now I try and stream at I try to start at between 10 to 12 in the morning / afternoon, and then I go for maybe 4 to 8 hours depending on what I need to do. But right now I'm trying to sort out my streaming schedule because your boy has been overwhelmed with real life. So
real life.
This is actually the first time today where I actually got to get on my stream and actually do some shooty boats, which was really nice.
Yeah.
So I really did appreciate.
Also, be looking for the 27th of August, where we're gonna do the podcast with Stats Bloke, and then probably after that we're gonna go play some World of Warcraft.
Ooh.
That's what I'm gonna do on that day, and we're only gonna play
everybody,
a couple of days.
Hordside Man Crick. Portside Mankrik.
Yeah, we're gonna try it. I've never played it before, so I'm pretty excited to play it. All right, let's jump into the Q&A session here, boys. Your SAT score says Ohio could lose the secondaries and still be very strong boat. Yes, it could. Yes, it could. But not at range. I still don't think the range is very good on it. But
I mean,
that's my
again,
personal experience.
it's quality. It's the argument of quality and quantity. With Montana has the quantity, Ohio has the quality. Of course, you're going to see drop off at longer ranges because dispersion has more of an effect at those longer ranges. So even if it did lose the secondaries, I do feel like Ohio would still be very strong as a mid-range brawler and fighter there.
Agreed.
But at range, it would be very, very poor, in my opinion,
You
or
know-
at least more inconsistent than its Montana line counterpart.
Right. No Zoop for you, somebody that I don't agree with on a lot of things. I actually agree with him on this point. He said the point that the Montana can do things that the Ohio can't, and the Ohio can get, or the Montana can damage things the Ohio can't, and vice versa. The Ohio can get damages where the Montana can't. I tend to agree with this. It just based on 15, 20, 30 games that I've actually played in it. I see a lot of differences between the gun pins and the damage that you get in the Ohio versus the ones that you get in the Montana. Now, the Montana, I do end up getting more damage because obviously more shells, but that's not the point. The point is that I'm seeing weird shots going into things from the Georgia, or not the Georgia, but the Ohio that I am getting the damages on, where that same shot on the Montana, I'm not getting the damages because of the lack of the pin, the lack of the size of the gun. So I agree. Spectre says, thank you, Z46 Love. That's all I have played too. I love the 46, man. I ranked out in the 52. I ranked out in the Yu Yang. I ranked out in the 46 during the arms race season, which was a very fun season, by the way. Bring it back. Really enjoy the 46, man. It's my go-to for this season, man.
I just keep rotating, man. Like the Z46, I can see why people like to take it because it can be played aggressively, but it can only be played aggressively realistically with support. Like if you push into a Jutland, you're going to get destroyed.
I think breaking it down even further than that. Yeah, do you need some help? Sometimes you need help, not all the time, but I think that it can only be aggressive when you have your smoke and hydro going at the same time. That's the only time, or when it's available for you. I think that's the only time it can be aggressive, as opposed to when you don't have it. You're kind of passive, playing the middle of the boat, middle of the field, playing the B caps. And just trying to zone spot torps and spot enemies for your team until that hydro and that smoke is ready to go. You're kind of not doing much. That's the way, at least that's the way I've seen. But you can get very aggressive with it. Hardstyle says, at Senpai, how many Neptune Citadel hits did you have in that recent battle?
Well, in that one where I was facing off against Sepp and Jones, the total actually ended up being 12. It was like if you can get up close against a Neptune or any Royal Navy cruiser with a French destroyer, if you just go bow in and laugh, like you bounce all his shells and he maybe gets a little bit of damage on your superstructure, but you're plowing him in his citadel and there's nothing he can do about it.
And there's no better feeling than to just plow dudes.
I mean, different strokes for different folks, Venom. I mean, if that's the way you swing, it's 2019, and I'm glad you're coming out on stream.
Man, I am all about playing with dudes, and the more dudes that I can play with, the better, man. Let's go. Atrox says, removing the non-premium consumables, aka dumbing down the game, should not happen. Changed my mind.
I don't think it's more of a really dumbing down the game sort of thing. It's just people are spending an obscene amount of credits on these consumables. I believe it was somewhere in statistics or something like that. I'm not sure.
Well, it's 22,500 for each.
I mean, to you and I, that's like nothing.
Nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. But for some of these guys that are coming up that don't have premium time or the free players, it can get a struggle, especially when you get up in some of these. They have engine boost, they have torpedo reloader, they have smoke, they have hydro, they have main battery reload booster. It can get pretty overwhelming to where you're spending 130, 200,000 credits a game, and if you're not playing very well, that's a loss completely. I disagree with them taking it out of the game because that kind of separates the players that can do it, and versus that just more separation between the players. So I don't think that they should remove it because it's not it. In reality, you just got to play more. But,
I agree.
Anyway.
Up to a certain point, maybe don't remove them up to for example, tier 7, and then tier 8 remove them, so then you have those extra boost against like tier 8s versus tier 10s. Nobody likes that.
Yeah.
But again, having stock consumables as a tier 8 and facing tier 10s, that's a big problem.
Yeah,
So
it can be definitely a difference. Game
and you'll
breaking
need
sometimes.
every advantage plus your wits to outskill and defeat a tier 10 and a tier 8.
There you go. TT Washer says, please define slingshotting. Well, you're more of an expert on that shit than I am.
Okay,
Explain the slingshot.
so the slingshot is a maneuver that a carrier player uses in order to use the safe zone, the post drop safe zone, where AA cannot affect aircraft. So what happens is, say for example, I'm flying in my dive bombers against a
Worcester.
against a Worcester or a Des Moines, some really high AA ship, something that I can't get through without taking massive casualties. What I will do is I will sit maybe 7 kilometers away from the ship. I will get a drop in. My planes will go up. I'll get the drop off, and then it will slingshot my planes forward because the game is compensating for how much speed or how much distance my planes would have technically covered without dropping. And it's going straight through. You get right to the targets. Therefore, there's less time within that AA aura. So you know how there's the short, medium, and long. It's less time in the stronger AA auras and getting into the closer ones. And therefore, you bypass all this AA DPS by using the immunity period that was given after a post drop. So you basically get in, you take minimal casualties, and you knock the absolute crap out of somebody, and then they proceed to rage and salt you and chat.
Yeah, I think that it can be best be defined. Like if you play carriers tonight, or if I play carriers tonight, which I probably will, just to show this. After you make that, you go up in your dive bombers, you make that drop, you literally shoot almost a square and a half across the board with your planes, and if you hit the boost, it's even further. So I think that's something to take people into consideration and watch people how they do it. Watch the Euro video on what he's doing. He doesn't really explain it at all, but you can kind of gather what he's doing, and then it's just a matter of finding out the ranges on what you can drop on, the torpedo ranges, the bombers for each of the different ships, and you'll be just fine. It's not hard to do. It's practice. You just have to practice it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Period 026 says, I am a gamer from the EU, and I have followed another streamer / community contributor, somebody. He was surprised that NA had so many battleships. There's so many battleships on North America, like in ranked season or regular. I'm not sure this other one.
I mean, just so many in general. And I can actually kind of answer this question. A lot of the times
In ranked, he said,
like
in ranked.
like in ranked, well, I guess I would like to say that there's a larger battleship main population on the North American server, simply because I mean, look at how many museum ships that are battleships around in the States. I mean, we have the Texas, we have all four Iowas are not all of them are museum ships, but all 4 of them are afloat. And so we have some of that. We also have the Arizona Memorial, which is still there. And so a lot of these people who are playing these battleships have either A, visited the ships, or B, are taking an interest in the history of those ships. So they tend to stray towards the battleships more. And plus, nobody really talks about the feats of destroyers. Like, yeah, these tin can heroes, they're great. But it's the battleships that get spoken about in these tales. Like, we all hear about the Tirpitz. The Tirpitz did nothing special. It got bombed into oblivion. The Yamato, it was known for having the biggest guns ever, and it got bombed into oblivion. It didn't do much, but people are still talking about it.
Musashi taking 19 torps. Yeah,
Exactly.
there's a lot to be said about the different cultures. I mean, culture has something to do with it. Also, I think in rank season that the games with 6 players don't really benefit the cruisers very much. Yes, you can do some good things, and good players are going to do good things in cruisers, but they take so long to get effective with their fire damage and everything that majority of the people want that big bopper damage so they can delete those cruisers that just happen to be played. So I think that this in the NA, it's a DD and battleship meta this season. There's a few cruisers here and there. I think I've had one game where I've had several games where it was all battleships and DDs, and I think I've had one game where I had 2 cruisers. I I think I've seen 2 cruisers on each team. That was about it. So it all depends on how the meta's going. I don't play on the EU server very much, but from what I've seen, it's a very passive play, and that benefits the cruisers, whereas America's a little bit more aggressive, and that benefits the battleships. So they're going to play into that.
Mm-hmm. Precisely, I do agree with that. Like our I like to say that our gameplay is very, very, very fluid and fast, whereas on EU, when I have played EU, it's been like a staring contest to see who blinks first.
Yeah. Period also says, I have a question I'd like to ask you to discuss. How is it possible that BBs on the high tiers under 7 kilometers, you shoot and aim at the superstructure of a cruiser and a cruiser or battleship, and the shells all land left and right? Just what? He's talking about going back into the dispersion, and you just had shit RNG, man. That's literally the only reason.
It's like playing D&D where you're rolling a D20. You roll that nat 20, you get that 20, and it's the perfect shot, and you dev strike them in.
Yeah.
However, there's also the chance of rolling a nat 1, which is the worst thing that could happen to you.
Yeah.
You take the shot, and your dispersion just goes, ha, guess what? Boom! It's all over the place.
Critical fail. But there seems to be a
maybe.
lot more critical fails than 20s in my experience. All right, Z-File says, I think the RNG is a good thing in the game because sometimes you get 3 to 4 citadels on a target that you would never expect. And you go boss mode, and sometimes it's a bad thing. It can just be one thing that makes aim good or bad is just to have them just to have it to be more than 2 factors. Yes, RNG is definitely several different factors as yes or a no. It's not a yes or no. It's a whole bunch of yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no fucking questions. What was the range at? What's your sigma? What's your fucking meters per second? What's your total left to right dispersion? There's a big factor in it, and so when it doesn't line up for you a lot, it definitely puts you on the fucking downturn of enjoyment. That's for sure. Because why? RNG sucks. So, Oni the Wicked said that was the hardest thing for me to get over, and I still struggle occasionally. But it used to be horrible. Every shot that wasn't perfect was upsetting. But I had to basically learn to expect the worst outcome of each salvo. Comments?
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's again coming down to it, saying like what we said to wrap up that section. Expect the worst, hope for the best, because that way you'll never be disappointed.
Agreed.
And with all that being said, like you really need to like lower your standards in World of Warships because there's too many different variables at play. It's just like shooting too. Like you can point the gun where you want it to go. You can point the gun where you want it to go. But will the bullet go there? It'll be a little off.
Majority of the time it will.
I mean, depending on range.
Yeah.
That's where we get into variables.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
realistically,
is the wind blowing? Is this going that way? Blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things. I don't knock what he's saying, but I still actively struggle with accepting the bullshit that I get. Now that also goes back. Do you remember back in the day when they actually had the bouncing stopwatch that showed the optimal point to shoot? Do you remember that?
Kind of.
Yeah, all right, guys. Let me just explain this. And so on your line, there's your aiming reticule, and then the lines. Your little tick marks to show the ranges. There was a little stopwatch that showed you how far away your shot was, how many seconds it would take, and then it would bounce when you're at the proper thing. They took that away because it gave people an unfair advantage. Well, I mean, everybody had opportunity to do it, so I don't understand why they took it away. But
it's kind of like the X mod thing.
Right. When you had that bouncing shell, you had your optimal target. Now, this is conspiracy tinfoil hat time. There was people out there that said that if you fired directly on that, you would have better dispersion. Is that actually a factor? If you fire perfect shot, is it going to be good dispersion, or is it like you're just a hair off in the front, a hair off in the back? I don't remember because I didn't play very much back then when that mounting thing was there, and by the time that I paid attention to it, it was going away. Within a couple of weeks anyway. So I don't have any judgment. If anybody out there that had been playing from that way, did you see a better dispersion or not? If you did see a better dispersion, then there's something to be said about aiming better, giving better results. But if it did not give the better dispersion, then it's all out the window and it's complete RNG. GMC Yukon, we have ready, not much choice. We must accept the RNG, good or bad. Yep, you have to accept
Pretty
it,
much.
whether it is or not. Wondering, well, if that's true, but again, that leads back to why are they so inaccurate? He's talking about the German guns, the German battleship guns. I don't, because if they are too accurate, then they become overpowered. But I think a little bit, if they could tighten up some of the sigmas and tighten up some of the meters of dispersion that they actually have, I think the German battleships could be another come back as strong force. They're not very that strong right now with its main guns, and the majority of your damage you're probably getting 30 to 40% of your damage from secondaries anyway. I would like to see that go down a little bit further for me personally.
Mm. Like,
Uh-huh.
sorry, just with I understand the argument for making them more powerful, but
Agreed.
making them more accurate. But at the
Right.
same time, you really need to make sure, you're not like power creeping them positively in that way. You're not like making other ships, because like if we made the German battleships like laser accurate, they would be the be all end all in every meta.
Well, I mean,
Because
I don't look. I'm talking like the majority of the people that play the Germans don't take the accuracy mod. They take those secondaries because they want to see all that fucking fireworks spraying off out in the middle of nowhere, right? That's generally what people do, right? So you nerf yourself already because so you're not taking that accuracy. But even with that accuracy mod, and you drop your secondaries down to 9.7, so you can actually do some more with your main guns. It's still shit. So I'm thinking maybe they up the overall sigma just to tighten them up a little bit. I don't want them fucking laser accurate. They don't need to be like the Siegfried, but they need to be better than they are. And I think that will bring them back into a little bit more prominence and kind of even them out with everybody else. The majority of the people nowadays, and the reason why the stats are so high is because they're up in there. They're up in the shit. I would like to see a little bit more versatility in these boats other than a one-dimensional boat, but that's just me. Give or take in... FTMZK says a boat that is good. A boat that you have practiced in for a while. What makes a boat good? And then a boat that you're comfortable in playing.
wait, could you repeat the question?
We were
it cut out for a
judging. We
second
were
there.
judging on what do we consider a good boat? How do we consider a good boat? And FTM says a boat that you have practiced in for a while, probably a good boat for you, or a boat that you're comfortable in playing. One of the boats that I absolutely love, the Molotov, is not necessarily a good boat because it's squishy as fuck too. But it's something that I've played for a long time, and I love that boat, and I'm comfortable in it, and I know what I can expect. So there you go.
That actually kind of wants to make me go play the Molotov again, simply because it has Donskoy guns and shells at tier 6.
180s. You know what? Also, the Kiev has the Donskoy guns at tier 5 too, or the Kirov.
The Kirov, yeah, that's why I really like the Kirov. Like, I actually stat pad in the Kirov. It's a lot of fun to play.
Wondering, a good boat is one that performs its role better than others. Wait a second. I have enough steel to either get a Stalingrad or a Burgoyne. Which one did you choose, or why would you suggest holding out for the future Hayate? Well, the future steel ship is the Summers, and I'm going to hold out for that because I'm not a big fan of the Stalingrad. I don't like the play style. It's a whole thing.
Now,
Now
sorry, go ahead.
Now I have the Bourgogne and I like it and I think it's fine. I don't have the Stalingrad and I don't play it, and I'm not a big fan of the Moskva play style and the Kronstadt play style. So I don't play those very often. So give us what you have to say because you have both of them. You love them. You love them both. So
Okay, so now I'm gonna be very blunt about what to choose and how to choose it. So realistically, if you are a competitive player and you want to have that utility and be able to be a benefit to your clan in either a tournament or in clan wars, I would take the Stalingrad simply because it's a pseudo battleship. It's 2.05 Sigma. It's disgusting. It will one-shot things. It'll put the shots right where you want it. It rewards good aim. Now, the Bourgogne suffers in those playstyles. in those settings, simply because it is too soft, its health pool is too low, and it doesn't do what a battleship is meant to do very well,
Small
and that
gun.
is tank, and it misses out on the alpha. Now you have the saving grace of the reload booster. At the same time, you don't have the health to deal with it. So if you want to mess around in randoms and have a ton of fun on randoms and crap in people's cornflakes, take the Borgon. If you want to play competitive, take Stalingrad. Stalingrad is okay in randoms. It's all right, but just be ready to be let down by your team. Like, I have this saying whenever I play like a competitive mode, like ranked. I want my ranked teammates to be my pallbearers at my funeral so they can let me down one last time.
There you go. Grats on top 3 clan battles finish. Says Ohio is a fun and balanced boat. I guess fun and balanced, that's a thing. Is it balanced? I don't know. What do you think? Do you think Ohio's balanced?
Ohio is very, very close to being balanced. But also, sorry, regarding the guy's question about if he should hold out or wait, I would hold out to see how the Somers performs and if it's in the meta. But going back to the Ohio and being a fun boat, it's fun, but it could use a couple more tweaks in my opinion, just a couple more, and it would be probably way better than it is now. No. So I would say that it's very close to being completely balanced, but it still needs that extra push, and I'm not sure what that extra push would be.
Yeah, I'm not sure
either.
I
think improved pen angles would be a start.
Do I think that it's balanced? I think for what it is right now, it's relatively balanced. I think just like Senpai said, it does need something, and I don't know what it is because I'm not. Even when it comes out, I'll probably get this, but I probably won't play this boat very often. It's just not my play style. But is it balanced? I think for what it is right now, it's balanced as a pushing boat. As a mid-range, a long-range boat, it's not balanced at all. It's broken. It's like broken bad on the bad side of it because it's questionable with 8 guns. That's it. That's the only thing I can throw out there, regardless of what the numbers are. Okay, so the next question comes in. It says Slava or the Ohio. I'm going to take the Slava hands down, and I think the Slava is fantastic for this game. And I know a lot of people out there are going to be like, this thing is terrible for the boat because it pushes a camping mentality. But when the games and you're trying to push in and you got that fucking Henry way out there at 18 fucking kilometers and the Zhao at fucking 17 kilometers, and I can finally get something here on the Slava that I can consistently and bank on my shots going in a very nice tight arc, and I can fucking punish them as a battleship fucking should, because battleships over cruisers, cruisers over destroyers, destroyers over battleships. It finally get to that old school battleship feel where I can actually punish these motherfuckers out there at 12 or 15 or 18 kilometers. I love the Slava. I think it's great. Problem with the Slava, 406s, if you have any angle, you're not doing shit, but if they're flat broadside, you own them.
Like, honestly, if taking the choice between the Slava or the Ohio, definitely, like 11 days out of 10, I will take the Slava over the Ohio. Like, there's no way I'm going to take an Ohio over a Slava, simply because in its current form, as it is still a work in progress, in its current form, it will destroy anything and everything. It will poop and it will crap on whatever you love in your life.
Yeah.
It will, like, it is disgusting. And I will recommend that ship over any and every battleship, simply because it's so accurate. The only downside is it can't tank as well because of its reduced consumables.
Yeah, it doesn't.
That's really the only
It
downside.
It doesn't tank very well at all. And when you get under 15 kilometers, the dispersion becomes normal battleship dispersion. So it's kind of questionable under 15, but over that 15 to 18 mark, it's fucking phenomenal, dude. And I love it, man. One-shotting Henrys from fucking 18 kilometers away while he's on a full turn just absolutely gave me a hard on, man. I was like, oh my God, this reminds me of shit from way back in the day. Bring this thing out now. I want it, the sooner the better. So there it is, boys. That's all the questions and comments, man. Ladies and gentlemen, if you guys is the first time that you've joined us, go ahead and hit that funky ass follow button, man. We've had a good time talking with my man, Viirtual Senpai, at Viirtual Senpai over on the Twitter, twitch.tv/Viirtual Senpai. If you guys did not catch the beginning of the show, we'll have it up on YouTube right there, youtube.com/sirvenomik. You guys can hit that up, and I'll have it up there probably tomorrow morning. If you guys want to hang out, I'm going to play some games. I don't know what Senpai's doing. Are you done for the day? You want to play some?
I'll play some. I just got to go to the bathroom and find some.
Yeah,
food
I'm
first.
about to pee on myself
play a couple.
too.
So play a couple, and then I'll hit you up.
Yeah, all right, no worries. Yeah, guys, thank you very much for watching. Episode 32 is in the books. Of course, I am sirvenomik. Hit me up on Twitter at sir_venom_ik, and over here at twitch.tv/sirvenomik. Senpai, thank you very much, man. I love you, bro. Oh, man.
See you at TwitchCon, buddy.
Yeah, hell yeah,
See you
dude.
at TwitchCon.
see you guys next week with my man, C. Atrox is going to join us on Tuesday. You got to tell him goodbye, man.
Good luck and fair seas. We out.
We out, boys. We'll see y'all next time, man. See y'all later.